Good evening. It's so great to see this room full of all of you people. Thank you so much for being here. For those of you who have just joined us after closed session, welcome to this hybrid regular meeting of the Board of Trustees. I am Lisa Pelosi, Board President, and I would like to introduce my fellow trustees, Laura Simon, Sean Mora, Jeannie Kerr, and Jean Marie Wolfe. And also, Carolyn Wagner is our student representative to the board as well. I would also like to introduce district staff, Superintendent Ruben Aurelio, Assistant Superintendent Mr. Christopher Heller, Chief Business Official Dr. Kay Vang, Executive Assistant to the Superintendent and Governing Board Ms. Erica Madrigal, and our Director of Technology Mr. Derek Machado. Additional site administrators are joining us in the audience this evening. St. Helena High School Principal, Mr. Benjamin Cinto, RLS Middle School Principal, Mr. Andrew Ryan, and St. Helena Elementary School Principal, Dr. Carmen Emery. We are delighted that you are viewing in person, on Zoom, or on television channel 27, or on our YouTube channel. A copy of this board meeting video will also be available on our website at www.sthelenaunified.org. In connection with items 4A, 4B, 4C, and 4D, the board received information and provided staff with direction. If you could all join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Okay, item is 6A, which is public comment at our board meetings. These are for items that are not on our meeting agenda this evening. There is a 3-minute limit on public comment, so if anybody would like to come forward and provide public comment, now is the time to do so. You can state your name if you would like to, or you can remain anonymous, your preference.
No, that's fine. Hi, my name is Lisa Goldfarb, and I am the president of the St. Helena Public Schools Foundation. What the foundation is a group of parents and community members that want to provide extras to an already amazing district-provided education. So what we did is we got together with all of the parent groups at each of the school sites in the district, and we decided to provide one large fundraiser to bring extras and enrichment to every student in this district. And that fundraiser is called Give Big. So you're going to see huge signs everywhere in the town pretty soon. And when you see them, I want you to think, this is the fundraiser to provide extras for education for every child in this district. And that's all I'm going to say. And I would love to introduce the chairperson of Give Big, Coco Lopez.
Hi, everyone. Thank you very much. And we're so excited to be here on a day that so many people from the district actually are here. It's my job basically to raise as much money as we possibly can so that our schools can be the best they possibly can be. This is really important to me because I feel really deeply that for the benefit of our town's future, we need to raise the most spectacular citizens we possibly can. And those start with children who are nurtured and supported in every way that we as a town possibly can do that. So to that end, it's my job to raise money, and I think there are lots of ways of doing that, and it's not just about money. You're going to start seeing coming home with you, like Lisa said, all sorts of things. We're really big on just participation, so even though we designed this for the primary and elementary school grades, the high schoolers encouraged us to send one home with the older kids as well. We've made participation really easy. We're asking you to put a sign up. We're asking you to think about things more, basically. We're going to be sending home things like this that actually details what we support. It's remarkable. Our homecoming parade is Give Big. Our field trips come from Give Big. We have puppet shows. We have so many things at every single school, and this doesn't even begin to touch the grants that the St. Helena Public School Foundation gives both to not to parents, to the teachers and to individual students to get them that extra bit. It can be anything from camps to, well, the past couple of years there have been college level classes at PUC that the district is legally prohibited from paying for. There are opportunities that I want all of us to have, and we actually can get there pretty easily, I believe. So I'm just asking that you stay receptive, listen. I had a whole list, but honestly, I was completely overwhelmed by the crowd. So as more things come home, please do read them, and I hope that we don't completely wear you out, and can help you just to understand that with all the fundraisers going around, I have kids in sports, I have kids in drama, I don't have kids in FFA, but I know a lot of kids in FFA, and I know we're doing a lot of different fundraising, and sometimes it's hard to know, didn't I just do that? When you see this yellow Post-it, you know that what you're doing is going to help every child in the district. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Do we have a date for Give Big?
Oh my goodness. Yes, thank you. The big date for Give Big is March 24th, and we ask that donations come in. Thank you so much, Lisa. Yeah. On March 24th, but really, we're open for business. We're ready now. In fact, we're doing a sip and support with a local winery that is giving money to Give Big. We do shop and supports, all sorts of things. Thank
Great.
you.
Thank you so much. Thank
And
you
there will
both.
be Run Big, but I'll come back to talk about that.
Okay, great. We'll look forward to seeing you next month. Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to make public comment on an item not on the agenda this evening?
Yes.
Please.
Hi, my name is Antonio Contreras, and I would like to say something about we have an issue with our kids at schools. I've been finding out that many of our kids, especially here in high school, are having issues with drugs pretty much. And I would like to see if there's any way that you guys can help us, parents, that we have kids in these district schools, to have the option to help the kids avoiding these situations, drugs. Pretty much like my idea is to see this an option to have someone who can go to each classroom to inspect their backpacks. We used to have this years ago, but unfortunately because the laws been changing, now we don't have it. And now we've been seeing so many issues with our kids, they're doing drugs. So that's my things to say, that if there's any way that you can help us on this situation and help our kids. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Is there anyone else who would like to publicly comment on an item not on the agenda? Okay. Ms. Madrigal, anybody on online? Okay, thank you so much. Okay, well, with that, we're going to move on to presentations, and we have our first presentation is by our student representative, Carolyn Wagner.
Good evening. I'd just like to start by saying congratulations to all of the students in our audience tonight. Your hard work and dedication has definitely paid off. So tonight's presentation is going to be a little bit different. I decided to focus on leadership at each of our school sites, just kind of as an update and a highlight in case you didn't know what was going on there. So obviously we have leadership at the high school, and what we prepped for and we had on Wednesday was Student Congress, which is really important for our school because it allows our entire student body to give input for leadership, and then I can bring that here to the board. So we discussed last time about school motivation, spirit, and community, and then we presented the leadership finals from last semester and gave them our ideas. So some of our ideas to raise spirit were a talent show that we haven't had in a couple years. And so it was nice to get some feedback on that, and we're gonna have a debrief tomorrow on leadership. So I'm excited on the way things are moving, and hopefully we'll get some new events out there. Our academics group was focusing on our mid-year motivation. You know, March is a really long month, and AP tests are coming up, so we're just trying to keep everybody engaged in school and happy. And then, of course, Run Big. We actually had a meeting with Mr. Aurelio and some of the committee members, and we talked about how student leadership can either help facilitate part of the event and promote it at school in the bulletin and on social media. So that's all very exciting. Oh, and I would also like to mention my meeting with Dr. Vang, and my committee culture met with her, and we discussed a new relationship with Both A, and so we're starting to foster that relationship between our clubs that are really into the outdoors and having them have a relationship. So it's really nice to see our whole community kind of come together with the school. Next slide, please. So at the RLS, they have leadership and they have ASB, but really ASB helps facilitate some of these movie nights. So lately, they've been going on a craze. They had The Goonies, Ferris Bueller's Day Off. They like to keep the sixth graders in their own little bubble so that they feel safe and happy. And I know they have snacks and popcorn, and that was always really fun when I was in middle school. So I'm glad they're doing that. And then they had a Super Bowl Spirit Day, which I'm actually kind of jealous of. We should have done that at the high school. And it seems like they had a lot of good participation. So that was exciting. And then on Valentine's Day, they hosted a gift bag creation activity. So really, they're just trying to keep spirits up during this time. Like I said, it's our mid-year, so we're just trying to get through and get some better weather. And then, yeah, we're just keeping kids engaged. Next slide, please. So I went to the elementary school, and I've never officially met with their student council, and so I'd just like to explain to those who don't know what it's all about. So it's made up solely of fifth graders, and the whole idea is that they're the role models of their schools, they're the big kids, and next year they're hoping to expand, which I think will be very interesting. But I was astonished at the depth and curiosity they had, and they were really excited, and we had some great conversations, and some of them were about the lunch line, and some of them were about real big issues on campus. So I was really excited to see like these student leaders who, you know, I could see being in ASB in RLS and being in leadership in high school. And so I just feel like we're starting them off really young, and that's great to build those skills of responsibility and accountability. They told me some crazy things. They raised over $1,500 for the Kids Heart Challenge. I mean, I never did anything that amazing when I was in elementary school. So I'm astonished by these kids and their energy and like passion for student leadership at such a young age. They have jump rope rallies. They also do spirit days. So I can tell that they're really engaged in what they're doing, and I think it's a really great council for them to be on. So I felt that that was important to share with you. Next slide, please. And then at the primary school, everything is sunshine and smiles. One of the things that I thought was interesting is that they really focus on responsibility in the small ways. So it's about doing the little things like pushing the cart on their own and walking down the hallway to the nurses on their own. And so one of my peers, who is a student tutor down there, says they get really excited to do these little tasks. And again, I feel like it's really important that we're instilling these values into them at a very young age, and then we can build upon it at each school site. So, you know, from primary to high school, you know, like building a saint is kind of how I saw it. But next slide, please. Thank you.
Thank you very much, as always. Trustees, any questions for Carolyn? No. Okay. Thank you so much. Okay, item 7B is the recognition of the St. Helena Unified District Teacher of the Year and finalists. Mr. Aurelio, please.
Well, good evening, President Pelosi, Vice President Simon, Trustees Morrow, Wolf, and Kerr, and Wagner, and all these lovely parents and students that are in the audience. Thank you for being here this evening. So this is a night of honoring. We're honoring some teachers and we're honoring some students. We're going to start with the teachers. So we're here to honor the St. Helena Teachers of the Year. We have three finalists in the room. No, sorry, two finalists in the room. One of our finalists could not be here. They're actually on a field trip we approved the other day with the welding program. So just some notes about the Teacher of the Year. So this year we received 42 teachers received nominations, and that's tremendous. There were 197 individual nominations, which is a lot considering the size of our district, right? So 11 of those teachers accepted the nominations, and then we ended up with our finalists. So we have 2 finalists here from RLS. We have Margie Scherer, math teacher, and Emily Corsino, English teacher. I've personally been in those classrooms, and I know how fantastic these teachers are. Every time I go into Margie's room, I'm learning something new in how we do BTC and get kids engaged. It's really amazing. I know that the Principal Ryan, is here, and he's a couple words to share about those 2 teachers.
All right. I, too, am surprised and grateful for the large audience for this spiel, and I promise to make it poignant and quick. I don't want to be the guy that gets between Mr. Cinto and a microphone. So but, you know, to be honest, it's a pleasure to work with all of these amazing professionals, and to walk the halls at RLS is really a treat. And some of you have had the opportunity to experience it with me, and I know you've been there at the times. It's an amazing place to work with a high degree of professionalism. So the opportunity to speak on 2 of those folks that have risen this far along in the process is really quite special. So keeping it rather brief, but highlighting a couple things, I wanted to speak first just quickly about Margie Scherer. She was the first person I actually met after I was hired as that was a teacher. I showed up at the PLC conference knowing Mr. Heller and hearing Mr. Cinto's name, and then there's like this ray of sunshine waiting for me with my little tote bag that was registered, and Margie Scherer's there ready to like privy me to all of the things that are wonderful about RLS, and that sunshine is captured daily there. Her kindness, her generosity, her school spirit. She oversees I would call the Sunshine Committee, the Staff Appreciation Committee. In fact, she was there today with our other finalists, decorating the room for a special day tomorrow. Also, as far as instruction goes, Ms. Scherer is, reinventing herself. You're going to hear probably more about this in a little bit with BTC, but she's reinventing herself and her instruction with building thinking classrooms. It's an amazing opportunity to go in there and see math instruction in this regard, and she's just a great ambassador for RLS and for our math program. So congratulations, Margie Scherer, as being a finalist. And next, I have the opportunity to speak to our other finalist, about our other finalist, Emily Corsino. Emily is our 8th grade English language arts teacher, and I got the opportunity last year to go to a staff meeting, as I was still the HR guy over in Sonoma, and I would take any invitation to get away from that and come over here. So I came over and I got to go to a staff meeting, and there was a couple things going on, and there's this vibrant teacher up there talking with passion about family group and all these color coordination spreadsheets and family groups and color groups, and I'm like, what I gotta memorize all this? I don't know. And the reality is I did not, because someone as organized and as passionate about this was Miss Corsino, leading our school through a little bit of change there and being a great facilitator of that change, and then to spend time in her classroom where she is passionate, she has high expectations for all students, and she provides the supports and professionalism to help those students achieve those goals and those high standards. And I know that we're preparing our students well for you, Mr. Cinto, Mr. Fetters, and your department up there. So, Emily, congratulations to you as being a finalist. Thank you.
If we can have you come up and do a bit of some handshaking and photo ops.
Shake some hands. Right here.
It's the receiving line. Nice to meet you officially.
Yeah. We want to do this, or do we want to do a photo with the 2 finalists? We'll do all 3. We'll do all 3. All right, before you step up there, Mr. Cinto, let me just... So I do have the pleasure to announce, so from St. Helena High School, we have our winner as Teacher of the Year, and he's really easy to spot in the room. I think he might be the tallest person in the room. in the back there, Mr. Madison Butts. And mathematics takes the win this year. I mean, 2 mathematics teachers as finalists and winner. So I am going to turn it over to Mr. Cinto. He will get the mic, and he will tell us a little bit about Mr. Butts.
I like how Mr. Ryan's throwing shots. He's going to learn really quick. They come back tenfold. Yeah. I had to write it down. Now, while I'm no clairvoyant, the subject line in my email when submitting Madison's Teacher of the Year letter of recommendation read, "Winner. No, serious. He really should win this year." And while my plea had no bearing on the outcome, the selection committee got it right this year. So why Madison? He is exclusively responsible for ushering in building thinking classrooms, not only in the math department, but to St. Helena High School as well. He planted a seed and nurtured it within himself and within others. His ground level work has truly made and continues to make a difference for both students and staff. Number 2, he's the poster child for dual enrollment. Madison's success as a dual enrollment instructor has paved the way for his colleagues. It is truly remarkable that St. Helena High School owns 6% of Napa Valley College's 25% increase in enrollment, and it all started with him. And lastly, while those 2 things are semi-fancy, what I personally admire most about Madison are his efforts around leveling the playing field. While some of you might recall his presentation to families and staff around detracking, but it was just not his words, it was his work. This year, St. Helena High School eliminated Pre-Integrated Math 1, our only non-college prep academic class. And rather than let students who were slated for Pre-Integrated Math 1 fall where they may, Madison emphatically said, "I want those kids in my math class." Madison is a principled teacher and deserving of this recognition and more. I look forward to him moving forward to the next phase of this process and hoisting another St. Helena Unified teacher's picture on the wall of Napa County Office of Ed. Mr. Butts.
I say something. I'm just going to say it's a great honor. I work with some amazing professionals, both at this district in general and at my specific site. So to win this, it really does mean a lot. And actually, a special shout out to Ben Cinto and Greg Fetters. I do a lot of pushing in my teaching, both with my students and just how I move my instruction forward. And I would not be able to do that without those 2 supporting me every step of the way. It really has been amazing. So thank you. It's an amazing honor.
Congratulations. Now it's photo.
You're in the middle.
You stand behind that.
Okay.
She's got to stay late, so. We love that stuff. Thank you so much, everybody, for being here tonight on that. Okay, we're going to move on now to another important milestone here. We have the celebration of the St. Helena High School and RLS Middle School reclassified fluent English proficient students. So at this, I'm going to ask Mr. Cinto and Mr. Ryan to please come up to the podium.
All right. Thank you. Good to see you all again. I want to introduce Ms. Sandra Hernandez, who's our counselor at RLS and is going to help with the presentation of these and also the translation of a very short spiel. And then we have our ELD teacher and EL coordinator, Ms. Dana Simon. right behind me here, who's also going to help out and distribute some certificates. So, that said, welcome. Tonight we're here to celebrate our children's commitment to their education and their ability to demonstrate that they're proficient in reading, writing, speaking, and listening in English. Kind of like torn between both of you here, but I'll go this way. Today, we will be honoring the students who began their journey with us as English language learners and who have been reclassified as English proficient over the past year, including last school year. These students have worked tirelessly with their teachers, Ms. Simon, paraprofessionals, and their families, all of you, to accomplish this goal. As we know, learning more than one language is an asset to individuals, families, and our community. Being bilingual is a gift and invaluable as bilingual students and individuals are more competitive and attractive in the job market. So, how does one become reclassified or English proficient? We earn a 4 or a proficient on the English Language Proficiency Assessment in California. We earn high standard met on the California Assessment of Student Performance and Progress, commonly known as CASP, or proficient on the MAP test, a benchmark exam. And we are recommended by our English language development teacher, Ms. Simon. And of course, we have parental consent, your parent approved. So with that, I'm going to turn that same spiel over to Ms. Hernandez, who's going to say that in Spanish for us.
Hola a todos. Esta tarde nos reunimos para celebrar el rendimiento de sus hijos en su educación y capacidad para demostrar que dominan la lectura, la escritura, el habla y audición en inglés. Hoy honraremos a los estudiantes que comenzaron su educación como aprendices del idioma inglés y que fueron reclasificados con dominio en el idioma inglés en el anterior año escolar. Estos estudiantes han trabajado incansablemente junto con sus maestros, la maestra Simon, asistentes de maestros y sus familias para lograr esta meta. Como sabemos, dominar más de un idioma es una herramienta beneficiosa para las personas, las familias y nuestra comunidad. Ser bilingüe es un regalo invaluable, ya que las personas bilingües suelen ser más competitivas y sobresalientes en el ámbito laboral. Para que un estudiante aprendiz del idioma inglés sea reclasificado, se requieren 4 requisitos. El primer requisito es obtener un puntaje de número 4, que es competente en la prueba de dominio de inglés de California. Número 2 es obtener un estándar alto en la evaluación de rendimiento y progreso estudiantil, o proficiente en la evaluación de rendimiento académico. Número 3 es ser recomendada por la maestra Simon, que es la coordinadora del programa de aprendiz de inglés. Y el último requisito es contar con la aprobación de ustedes, los padres, para que sea reclasificado su estudiante. Felicitaciones a nuestros estudiantes. Apreciamos la colaboración con ustedes y con su familia.
Now let's hear it for them. Okay, so students that RLS is representing and announcing, you're gonna, when I say your name, you're gonna stand up, and probably the best thing to do would be to go around, come right up here, shake some hands, and then you're gonna see Miss Simon on the end for your certificate, okay? All right, yep, right there. You got it. Yeah, all by yourself. All right. Angelica Contreras. Juan Nieto. Juan? Where's Juan? Juan Nieto? Yep, come on, buddy. All right. Brittany Rincon. Itzel Sanchez Legarreta and Jocelyn Sanchez. I'm sorry, Legarreta. I couldn't read my own writing. And Issei Bijot. And then not here tonight, but also receiving this recognition are Angel Sequa Clavel, Angel Figueroa, and Brian Salamanca. All right.
right. Now it's our turn. A quick thank you to Dr. Emery. We did the high school piece down in the cafeteria at our pre-reception, so thank you, Carmen, for translating. But huge congratulations to our students. Downstairs, we noted that these students officially now own the superpower of being bilingual. It's interesting. With the counselors yesterday, I was on a Harvard webinar titled Pathways to Careers with Purpose, where one of the assistant professors of education said something that made me think of the students that we're about to recognize in the next few moments. He said, "Don't let your circumstances determine your why, as your why will lead to your where." All of these students have worked tremendously hard to achieve while at the same time learning a language. They clearly have purpose and are poised for greatness. And it resonated me because I often think of myself, were you to throw me in a situation where I had to learn subjects in school and a language at the same time, probably would have joined the mafia. So before we call these students, I'd like, and she's going to come up and say something, but thank my EL coordinator, Mrs. Ganshorn. I've had the good fortune to work with Ms. Ganshorn for the last 15 years. And while I've already had great respect and admiration for her, she has done tremendous work in this new capacity as EL coordinator. And while she has formalized much of the dictates in our EL master plan, it is her human touch that has made today all the more meaningful. We are truly indebted for her. So Elizabeth, if you can come on down. You can applause too.
This is a business meeting, and at the center of all of the business that happens here is you. It is you. It is our students. This is what all of the business centers around. This is our purpose. For our work is to serve you, and to serve you families in the capacity that we can. It is a tremendous gift to be multilingual. It is a tremendous gift to have a wealth of language and words. And all of the language and the words that you have are opportunities for you to communicate in a world that is changing in so many ways, and in so many ways remains the same, because like Mr. Cinto said, this is about human connection. And we are so deeply honored and proud to be a small part of your lives. Your parents are your first and best teachers. Your families are your first and best teachers. And I just want to share on behalf of the entire faculty of St. Helena High School just how much we want to celebrate your successes. And this has been a lot of hard work. And we're just tremendously proud of you. And I've probably said that 37 times, but I can't say it enough. It's been a little bit of a homecoming tonight for me. I've got to see some really special former students tonight that I haven't seen for a while. And that's been a great joy in my heart, as each and every one of you students, you bring so much joy to our lives. So congratulations on this monumental task.
All right, so I'm going to call everybody's name, even if they're not here tonight. So alphabetical order, everybody. Leslie Awatzin Lopez. Gabriel Avina Ayala. And I know she got recognized at RLS, but we're going to claim Issei Bigo as well. Not here tonight and no longer at our school as his family has moved to Middletown, Jorge Carlos Correa. Martine and Noe Heredia. Rodolfo Hernandez. Victor Hernandez Cerigo. Dylan Laura Santos. Destiny Loera Trejo. Anthony Montanez Cortez. Cindy Morales. Valerie Moya. Jocelyn Palafox Martinez. Andrea Rodriguez Mendoza. And last, Alondra Santiago Clavel. We're going to move the picture to a bigger place. Oh, no, no.
On behalf of the board, congratulations again to all the students and to your families. It really is an accomplishment, and congratulations. At this point, we're going to take a 10-minute recess, allow everybody to celebrate, take photos, talk to staff if you'd like to, and we'll reconvene in 10 minutes. Thank you. Okay, we are back. Thank you, everybody. We're going to jump into item 8, which is all about facilities. So we'll start with item A, which is transportation program and busing infrastructure update. Dr. Vang, please.
Thank you, President Pelosi. So I'd like to call up to the podium our bus consultants, Phil Medved and Donna Anderson with pupil transportation information. I also like to include Steve Pekovich with Great Stone West. They will provide an update on our transportation program, including a change that we've made this year, and then end with an update on the EV bus charging infrastructure. Thank you.
Hi, thank you. Thank you very much for your time, and I thoroughly enjoyed being a part of all the presentations with all of the achievements of your students and your staff likewise. Very, very nice. It was excellent. Well, my name is Donna Anderson, and I am a consultant with PTI, which is Pupil Transportation Information. My career was as a school transportation director for Southern Humboldt Unified Schools north of here, and then I eventually moved on and worked for the state at the Department of Education until I was fortunate enough to retire. And our mentor, Phil and I's mentor, Tim Purvis, could not be here tonight. He had to be at another school site, but he got together and attracted some of us to come together and decide to provide assistance if possible, if anybody needed it. I was here, fortunately. What a gorgeous, gorgeous facility. A few years back when you were gifted your home to school transportation program from Napa with very little time to implement your own program. And I was here with another one of our colleagues, Mike Ray. He's from Sonoma, actually. So both of us are kind of familiar with the area. I was from a rural district, so it worked out pretty well. But tonight, I'm here to talk about the drug and alcohol program and the status and how that complies. I just want to start out by saying that pupil passenger home to school programs are the most regulated transportation in the state of California. And that does not even begin to incorporate the federal requirements for that. And whether a school district has one school bus, or if you're San Diego Unified and you have 500, you have the same requirements to do those things. And so I applaud it any time an individual who has a very full schedule already can take these things on. And it's been a real pleasure to meet Dr. Kay Vang and work with her on some things. But most recently, one of the big changes that took place is there is a requirement in the state of California and also federally that individuals who have a commercial driver's license must be drug and alcohol tested, which I think is absolutely ideal if you're transporting our wonderful children in this state. And in doing so, recently what Kay did is she reached out to your North Bay Schools Insurance Authority and made a change from a smaller drug and alcohol testing company and went through the North Bay Schools Insurance Authority to work with a much larger company that in turn facilitates many other member districts within the North Bay. And what that does is create a power for your small district to say, we're going to negotiate with this company, and we have all of these members. And it is a very articulate company, highly praised throughout the state of California. Not only can run a drug and alcohol testing program for the compliance, both state and federal, but it also runs non-drug and alcohol testing programs, which there are some changes coming down the pipe for Kay, and she's going to have some more challenges, but we'll be there for if she needs us. However, she's far exceeded anything we can do for her. So you can see right there what some of those other districts are and those participating members. The other thing that's essential, because a lot of districts are going with their insurance authority groups, is there's liability coverage for you. Changes come down the pipe. The feds say, hey, we're going to change some things with our drug and alcohol testing policy. You've already got these folks on board. They're telling you, hey, this is what the rest of our member districts are doing. This is what we recommend you do. Because oftentimes you find yourself having to negotiate with your bargaining units when these changes, even though it's required, you have to follow through with all those things. The comprehensive drug testing, which is CDT, the company, they of course have been in business since 1984. I think it's interesting to note that not only do they just provide the drug and alcohol testing that's required by federal and state law, they have the ability to do mobile collections. They'll provide the education and training that's required for Dr. Vang to be the individual who oversees those items. They do background services, and they also were great in providing some COVID-19 services when we needed those. Hopefully that won't happen again. I think in essence, it was a great move for her to make that change. And not only has she done that, she's brought the district up to date. On the federal websites, there are required reporting entities on there. Not only do you put your drivers in for their medical requirements, she had to list all the drivers in there for drug and alcohol so that all those queries could be provided to CDT, and that they could be that middle person between her and the actual hands-on having to do it. And it's a very reliable company, and it should work out very well for all of you. So with that being said, on behalf of PTI, and I'm sure my colleague will say the same thing, I think that Dr. Vang has navigated some items that took me 35 years to get pretty good at it, and she's been at it here for your district for a few years. So with that, thank you very much. Do you have any questions for me?
Trustees, any questions? No. Thank you very much, though. Actually, you provided a lot of information that I was not aware of, so I really appreciate all that information.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
And I'm going to talk about your electric buses you'll be receiving. It's a pleasure to be here. It's always good when you can bring good news to the district. Did I lose it? This process for me started about a year ago. Well, let me introduce myself first. Look at that. I'm Phil Medved. I'm the vehicle maintenance component of PTI. I was a fleet manager for Poway Unified School District in San Diego for 30 years before I retired and went consulting full time. Prior to that, I had many, many years of vehicle maintenance, and I enjoyed doing the consulting, and especially working with Dr. Vang. It's been a good process going through this. Electric bus money is flowing right now. It's going to dry up, and people are going to have to come up with funds to purchase buses. Oh, I went backwards.
Go forward.
This way?
That one. Yeah, one more. There you go.
It's not going.
What's happening? No, the other one. This one.
That goes backwards.
Keep going.
There we go. I got to figure out the process. Your funding came from the Bay Area Air Quality Management District. And at the request of the school district, they reached out to PTI, and I started the process of submitting a grant application on behalf of the school district for funding to replace 2 of your 3 school buses. We didn't submit for 3 because you have 1 diesel bus left. You have field trips that have longevity that the length of the field trip, the electric buses wouldn't be able to provide transportation. They don't, electric buses, the technology is there, but the distance you can get out of an electric bus is only about, they advertise 150, I would say 120 miles between charges. So we only went out for 2 buses on the electric bus grant. Your buses are 1998 buses, and the state of California is working hard to eliminate diesels in the state of California. So this is a good step forward for you. This was a unit price of the school buses, $413,767.62. So your total cost for the buses is $827,500. $535.24. The total is $895,806.90, and your grant award was $400,000 per bus, or a total of $800,000. Your district contribution will be $95,806.90. So the state of California is giving you $800,000 to cover the cost of these electric buses. Also, we submitted for a grant request for infrastructure funding, and the Bay Area AQMD provided funding of $72,783, and that funding is for whatever it takes to go from the charging stations to charge the buses to the electrical panel. I don't know that we don't have final figures because Pacific Gas Electric is heavily involved, and there'll be a speaker later on tonight, after me, I believe, talking about the whole infrastructure. But that funding will go a long way. For example, your charging stations were $26,000, so they'll be fully funded for that. There's additional funding we're going to apply for from Pacific Gas Electric after the project is completed, and I'm reaching out Monday to find out how soon we can start that process. The district will be required to submit payment to the bus vendor, and then submit that paid invoice to the Bay Area QMD for reimbursement. And the Bay Area QMD is usually very responsive within 30 days after your submission. They're refunding the amount, or they're granting the amount. Once you receive the buses, which are right now scheduled for August, September, when the buses are received and you sign for them and you submit for payment, you receive the invoice, you'll immediately submit that to the Bay Area AQMD, and we have 30 days to dispose of the buses, and they provide a packet of information that we'll need to follow to dispose of the bus. And I'll track that to make sure we get that done within 30 days. We don't want any problem with the grant. Okay. Again, the district, you'll receive an invoice from the district's choice of vendor for the infrastructure from the buses to the panel. Now, Pacific Gas Electric, and I'm going to let Steve talk about that, because Pacific Gas Electric is very much involved in this, covering a lot of the cost. Okay. And I think that was the last one for me. Any question? You're getting 2 brand new 84-passenger school buses, nice shiny yellow. And with Dr. Vang's advice, we went with an extended warranty on the buses to cover the electrical and the batteries for a little bit longer period of time. That's your biggest cost would be. They're Bluebird buses, very nice buses. Bluebird got into the electric bus market long before the other vendors did. The other vendors jumped on when they saw their money was being there. Bluebird was kind of in advance of it, saw that that was where the technology was going, and they build their buses from the ground up. There's no subcontractor. So you're getting very good quality buses, should last you a very long time, provide nice, safe transportation for your students. Okay.
Terrific.
Any questions?
I just have a quick, tell me about safety features on the bus. This is...
State of California requires seat belts on all the buses now, so they'll all be 3-point seat belts for all the seats. School buses in California are the most regulated in the nation.
Great.
They're the safest buses. For one example I use a lot is the rollover protection has to support 2.5 times the weight of the bus on a rollover. So the structure is there, like the bows that you see in the buses. Those are one-piece bows from side to side. They're not parts. They're safety protected. I don't know if you know, but if you see the black rub rails on the buses, that lets police and fire know that's where the seat, that is where the floor is on the bus. When you see that second level one below the windows, that's where you see one, usually one at the windows and one midway. The midway one is where the seat level of the buses is. So if a vehicle hits the bus, they're going beneath where the students are being transported. So there's a lot of safeties. I've looked at a lot of other states, and California is the safest bus you can get. They're the most inspected, most regulated. You're not going to find safer transportation anywhere in the country for your students.
Thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions?
No. It's great. We're learning a lot from the two of you. Thank you.
Well, congratulations on the buses.
Yeah, we're excited. That's great. Thank you. Trustees, any questions? Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Good evening. I'm Steve Petkovich with Greystone West. We're the construction manager, and we've been involved with various projects over the years here in St. Helena. I got involved with this project with the electric buses and charging stations pretty much in the fall of last year. And so I'm not up to speed on the history from that point backwards, but I can tell you that the PG&E representative that we were working with, they've given us a new contact, Craig Castro, and he's excellent. He's got a lot of energy. When you talk to PG&E people, they don't really engage with you, and they want to. In this case, he wants to really help us, and I think he's behind this project 100%. So I think that's a real asset for the project moving forward. We recently, as of today, just got the preliminary drawings as well as the contract from PG&E. Those two things are very important because based on those drawings, we can get more information from our consultants, from our civil engineer and electrical engineer to start putting together their drawings, because we didn't have any idea of exactly where everything was going to go until we got these drawings. So it's a big plus. The contract is important because when the contract is fully executed, then we can go ahead and order our switchgear. The switchgear, it takes approximately a year to get. Electrical components are in short supply, and it takes a while to procure them into the construction process. So in talking with our electrician, we have a plan to go ahead, because the buses will be here somewhere in the fall, but the switchgear doesn't get ordered until in March, so that means that it's going to be, past that point. So we have provisions to put in temporary power for the new EV charging station. So once the buses get here, the training happens and everybody is on board, then we can go ahead and get those buses charged up and be able to use them. So until the permanent structure is in place. So leading up to that, we will have the concrete pedestal for the switchgear, the conduits going under the ground. PG&E will run, they'll transfer the old transformer out and put in a new transformer, and that'll both supply the solar project for the future as well as the charging station. So it'll be a dual purpose transformer. I believe the pad that's there now doesn't need to be changed, so that transformer will just go right on top of that pad that's there. So it makes things a lot easier. The EV chargers are here. They were ordered and they're sitting over at the maintenance department, so we've got that. Site work will be done there'll be certain things that'll happen over the next year leading up to the final installation of the switchgear, disconnecting the temporary, and then getting the chargers fully online. I've reached out to a small group of general contractors to bid the work and for the site work portion, and we've had a lot of interest in that, so I think we'll have some good bids on it. Electrical engineering is going to be done by Omani and Meyer. They're very competent, and Peter is our contact there, and he's really good with designing these things, and he's done a lot of them, so it's second nature. The civil engineering will be Belgian Race. They've done a lot of work, I think, in this district as well as many districts in the area. So it's pretty straightforward. It's just raising a drop inlet that's there now, putting in a sliding gate, enlarging the opening for the buses to come in off the parking lot and back in. So those kinds of things, and there'll be some concrete curb work to do and some patch paving. So it should be a fairly straightforward project once we get all the pieces in place and moving forward. Is there any questions right now?
Trustees, any questions? So just one, I have, the warranty, the extended warranty, Dr. Vang, is that based on miles or years or a combination of both? Do you?
The warranty is not based, I don't believe it's based on miles, it's based on years.
Years. Okay, thank you. Okay. And so also then it sounds like our temporary charging will be in place 6 months, give or take, right?
Something like
Something
that.
like
yes.
that. I mean, if the buses come in fall obviously has a range, but it sounds like maybe 6 to 8 months we'll be using the temporary.
One thing I did not mention is your grant for reimbursement is, your grant for reimbursement is splittable. In other words, when the buses come in and you invoice for the buses, you don't have to wait for the whole project to be completed. You can submit that, they'll come out, see the great buses, and they'll reimburse you right away. And then, when the infrastructure is done, you can submit that invoice for reimbursement. So it's not a package deal.
Okay.
They'll split the reimbursement for you. Because I asked them about that, because you don't want to have $800,000 sitting out there for 6 to 8 months. You want 30 days, we can turn it around, that'd be great.
That's very refreshing. Thank you for that information. That's
and
good to
did you
know.
mention PG&E covers the cost of
I know,
all
then I was thinking, well, what happens when we
no,
have to
but-
get rid of them in 30 days, the diesel, and we don't have charging, but we'll have temporary charging.
We do have, yes.
So the other piece to this is that PG&E will cover the cost of the trenching from the transformer pad over to the new switchgear, which will go right across the front of the existing maintenance facilities building. And then it'll end up at the back wall of the restroom building there. So it'll be out of the way and protected, so, and PG&E requires bollards around that, so.
Okay.
In case somebody comes up too close to it. And then they'll cover, there'll be other grants that'll be coming up or money coming, but
Yeah, I think
That's
I think I
after.
mentioned it, that once a project's complete, we can submit for more grant money from Pacific Gas and Electric. I tried to get Tim O'Neill as our contact at Pacific Gas to let me start that process now, but he says that's not how we do it. You got to wait till you're done. But I wanted to get it in line to get it ready just to hand him the paperwork. But he said wait till it's done. But they're covering a tremendous amount of this infrastructure project going from the front of your transportation yard all the way to the back, and that's no cost to the district. So the $72,000 that you have should come very close to covering your cost of from the bus to the switch panel.
Okay.
And if it's less than that, I'm tell Steve throw more in there. Get that full 72,000. Anything that it costs you can associate with charging the buses up to that 72,000.
Okay.
We want to pack that invoice and get you the most bang for your buck. We don't
Yes.
want to leave them any money.
I think there will be
It
consensus
should
on
be noted that most of the time, PG&E does not do the trenching and the conduit for the secondary.
Yeah.
They're usually responsible from the street to the transformer on the primary, and then the owner has to take it from there. So, another thing that's going to be involved in this is a utility easement that we're going to have the surveyor, Belgian Race, put together, and then that gets over to the county and gets recorded so that it's in place. So that's one other part to it.
Okay, thank you.
I have just a very minor question. You mentioned about training when the bus are here. Does TPI then take care of that? The training of the drivers for the new buses and things?
We have people that can do that. I mean, Donna, and we have.
Could you
another
come to the
consultant.
microphone, please? Just so that,
Sorry.
no, that's okay.
You're
Just
fine.
so
Thank
that
you.
all of our viewers can hear you.
I'm a behind-the-scenes guy. We have PTI consultants. If it's your request, we can. I'm sure Tim can have a consultant come up and provide the training. It's what it is. It's you have to be familiar with all the components on the buses. The drivers have been driving; they're familiar, but they have to be proficient on this bus. Could be the different operation of the switches, the stopping, the starting, how the lights work, whatever. And it's just called proficiency training. They don't have to go through a whole training process to get their commercial license with a school bus. But like any piece of equipment they drive that's different, they have to be proficient on. And I know you've done that, and I'll let you talk more about that. That's
Yeah, I've actually done that too, but your best resource in this is going to be Bluebird themselves. When they deliver the vehicles that typically have the individual there, they go over everything with, if you have a dedicated staff member that will in turn train your employees that are going to drive them, fine. If you need to have your drivers there, that's what you do. But they built the bus. They tell you how it operates, what to look for, how to check different things. Because like I said, as the regulated portion, there are so many things that a driver is required to inspect on a vehicle daily before they drive it when it's a school bus. And so the vendor themselves is one of your best resources, but we can always offer to help with that stuff too.
That's perfect. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Trustees, anything further? Carolyn, any questions? No? Okay. Okay, well, I think then, I think that's great. So thank you all for being here and informing us and educating us on this. We're very excited to echo Carolyn, so. Okay, we'll move on to the next item, which is item 8B, review and consider approval of change order number 3 to the Bauman Landscape and Construction Contract for the RLS Track and Field. Dr. Vang.
Thank you. So Steve is here as well if there are any technical questions. But this is our third change order that we're bringing to the board, and it is in the amount of 3.4 million. Actually, it's 65, which will then change our contract to 3.4. And so this is for the RLS track, and it is the district's recommendation that the board approve the change order, please.
Thank you, Dr. Vang. Is there anyone participating via Zoom or present who wishes to publicly comment on this agenda item? No? Trustees, questions about this agenda item?
So my question, was this originally the scope, was this in the scope of our of the project, and if not, what changed, and what does this driveway serve?
Pass this over to Steve.
Well, this actually centers around the trash enclosure as well as access to the playground area from the street. So in the original drawings, there was a trash enclosure shown, but in looking at the overall layout of everything and how things were coming together, there was a discussion about well, how are we going to get down to the playground, and how did we get access from the street to do that, as well as we were looking at the trash enclosure and how the size and whether it's going to be functional. As you know, when the trucks come to pick up those bins, they do a lot of damage to the pavement in front if it's not done correctly. So in doing that, they decided that we needed to have a transition as well as some grading changes and heavier fence posts in there to go the long run, and so that would last a distance for the project.
So it sounds like it's predominantly then for the waste removal to come pick the trash cans up then,
Yes.
Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
And were the trash cans in just the front of on the street level before this project then?
Yes, it was shown to be over at that location, but it was fairly small, and it was decided that because of the truck turning radius and being able to get in there, that it had to be expanded to allow more room for that.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And then my other question, then this is kind of beyond this specific one, is so my question would be, is there something in the contract right now as far as the kind of the perimeter of the track where it was grass and now it's mud, just dirt and mud now? Do we have a plan for that, or is that part of the contract, or is that going to be in addition, any kind of landscaping or anything that we do on that?
Yes,
that area?
there is landscaping that goes around that. I think you're speaking about the upper wall as you go to that'd be the north end of the track.
Yes, I'm thinking like Spring Mountain Road to,
Right, exactly.
Yes, okay.
Yes, there are provisions in drawings to plant that, and currently what they're doing is they're putting in irrigation lines, the main lines that go around the backside of the wall, because it's been waterproofed, and it is currently, the drains have all been put on, so everything functions for getting the drainage to work.
Okay, but then so you're doing the irrigation, and then we're kind of doing the landscaping as far as getting.
And there, I think they show some ground cover in that area.
just ground cover, okay,
And there are some
okay.
trees that go in the tree wells all along that east side of the track.
Okay, 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 okay.
What kind of trees? Out of
Crepe
curiosity.
myrtles.
Yeah.
What are they?
Crepe myrtles.
White
They're,
crepe myrtle.
I think, Andrew, you counted 12?
12, okay. Okay, and then so the access, oh, sorry, are you
No,
done?
yeah,
Trustee
go ahead,
Kerr?
please.
Sorry. So this is not, the access is not related to emergencies or safety. It's strictly for trash collection.
Well, it's actually, it serves multiple
Okay.
reasons.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, that's great. I just feel like if it's also going to be beneficial for emergency access, if somebody needed to get onto the grounds at this campus, I think that's important to note as well, that that is another avenue to get to our students and staff if needed. Okay.
Yes.
So I have just one question
Yeah.
for Dr. Vang. Dr. Vang, so when the completion of the project, now do we have money budgeted in for shade structures and I'm talking about kind of the playground or the cement area, shade structures and benches and tables and stuff, or that's going to be in addition to all of this? Okay. Yeah, well, okay.
It's okay. You can, I mean, was there a plan originally for shade structures? I don't think that
Not,
there
I
was.
don't
Nope,
recall.
I don't think so.
Okay. Yeah, yeah.
Okay, okay. I have something I want to say, but I want to make sure everyone has what they said. Okay, I'm going to vote no on this tonight, just because I don't, this $65,000, we're pulling, we're really buckling up our belts, and that's a lot of cash for more cement going on at RLS, when we could, with that money, we could possibly be budgeting for the shade structures and benches, tables, the things that will benefit students. So I am going to be voting no on this evening.
Okay, thank you.
From what you brought up, I have a question. So you mentioned that there could possibly be damage if it's not corrected to the concrete the way the trash collector comes in.
Yes, I think the way it is was drawn originally,
Okay.
that it could promote damage, accelerate damage, let's put it that way.
Okay, and is that then the city's responsibility and to pay for it to fix, or the district's responsibility
No,
to pay to
the
fix?
district would take care of everything that's behind the sidewalk. Going
So
back,
that would
and
be
that's-
considered behind the sidewalk?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting because we're talking about on the Hillview side is where it is, correct? Just so that everybody make sure that we're all in the same spot. That there's already that fence in the back is really already damaged. The one that kind of accesses by the library.
Correct.
That one is already, and I don't know if that's because of trash collection or just from something else. But I totally value, Trustee Kerr, what you're saying. I understand there's a lot of expenses that seem to not have been foreseen that are now keep coming up. And that is unfortunate when it's not going to the students.
I have a question about the shade as well. When we were looking at the solar, didn't the last drawings show that the solar would provide shade over the cement in between the basketball fields?
As of our last walk with Gopal Shankar, our consultant, we have moved that for a couple of reasons. I know, Steve, I don't know, you didn't get to walk with us, but right now the plan is actually to have it where the bus pulls up, it's in front of the bus area, so it's not going to be like right over where the bus drop off and pickup is, but it is on that side. It is not going to be where the blacktop. The original plan was going to be on the blacktop, and between the blacktop and the new track and field, it's not going to be there anymore.
And why is that?
A couple reasons. I think one of the reasons was how much space we actually needed. We needed more space, and then also the further you trench from the meter, the more it's going to cost.
So that was a distance issue
yes,
as well?
yes.
Okay, I'm trying to think of a way to kill two birds
Yeah.
with one stone.
Yeah.
That's unfortunate that that can't be provided.
Yeah, I would mention that there is a grade difference there, and what we're fighting is we have one grade coming down, and then behind the wall, there's another grade. So they're in the middle, they actually meet so that you have a straight transition into the field. But it makes it more difficult for putting in a solar array when you have two different elevations happening there, because you have height problems.
So now I have the magic ball question to ask, which nobody likes to ask, but it's always important to this board. So the question is, are we going to be seeing a lot more change orders? And I know that, I mean, is there anything else that's seen like it's that wasn't foreseen initially, that as we get closer to completion,
You're asking me if I have the magic 8 ball? I don't.
I understand. Maybe there is no answer, but I think everybody at this dais knows how uncomfortable change orders to a high amount makes us, because
Yes.
because it's money that we feel that can go directly towards students. But I won't keep belaboring that point. I just think if there's anything else that we may start to see in the next couple of weeks as we come to the finish line, then let's make sure
Yes.
that we have a thorough dialogue about it amongst the board. And I know, Jeannie, so feel free to chime in if there's anything else you want to add. Okay, all
I
right.
guess I just have a question. There is an existing vehicle entrance to the blacktop, correct? Or is this change order creating the only one? Now I'm getting confused. Is there a entrance to the new track?
There will be.
If we approve this.
Right, because this is where the emergency vehicles can get in. This is where the trash, this is going to be it. On the other side, what's that road on the other side? Not
Hillview.
Is it Hillview?
Hillview is
Where the main
closer to
office
Madrona.
is, where your parking is, that
Yeah, Hillview.
Hillview. Okay, on that side, I don't think, because once isn't that part going to be closed off?
It would be, because
Right.
the fence runs across there. There will be pedestrian access through there and emergency vehicle access, but that's going to be it. It wouldn't be open to normal traffic or anything like that.
Okay.
So there is access.
Yeah.
Okay, from Hillview, just not from Elmhurst. And this is a new addition of an entrance, specifically, sounds like, for trash.
Well, it's three things, actually, at least three
Sorry.
things, multiple unit.
Okay.
It's trash pickup, it's emergency vehicle access if something happens to one of the kids and you need emergency vehicles on that blacktop. And it's also for, there's a shortage of storage area for different items that are used on the track and field. So there'll be some shuttling of some of that material coming from other sources or other areas around the campus.
Okay. Thank you, because I think it's just sometimes it's without like a diagram per se, it's a little hard to visualize, and I think that's probably what's happening. Carolyn, do you have a question?
I do. I was just wondering when it's actually projected to finish, and then with this being the third change order, if that's going to prolong this process.
Well, currently we're looking at mid-May for it to be completely done and finished. We've been plagued by quite a bit of rain at the critical spots, which is the paving and doing the base rock for the paving, as well as concrete finish work with flat work, and that you have to have good weather for those items. To be honest with you, we're past the worst part of it, which is unforeseen conditions underground, which we're past that part of it. We have a sign that we still have to drill 2 holes for and erect that. I don't foresee any conditions that are going to be a problem over in that area, because most of the utilities are on the opposite side and the irrigation's on the opposite side, so shouldn't be an issue there. So, you know, it's hard to say, but I think we're past the point of the big surprises, to be honest with you.
And I know that question puts you on the spot, and I wasn't trying to do that. It's just on this side, it's hard to swallow those. So that's the only reason why I asked that. But thank you for your candidness. I appreciate that.
Sure.
Trustees, anything further?
You know, after what Jeannie brought up, I think I'm also going to be a no, now knowing that we need additional funds for shading, and I am glad to hear that there is an emergency vehicle entrance on the Hillview side. Just want to share my thoughts.
Okay.
Well, and I think about that. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Just because I know that when this was all originating, there was parents that were really concerned about the lack of shade that's going to be on that track and field. And it sounds like we don't have, at this point, we haven't had anything. We're not budgeting anything, and I don't want to hear it would be difficult for me to hear next year, you know, we don't really have budget for this right now. And I'd hope that we would be able to save a little bit of money by not doing this change order, or that could go into, ancillary things.
Okay, thank you.
I think I got lost along the way. So right now on Hillview, we have the Circle Drive. Is that what we're saying would be the emergency vehicle access if we don't do this part? Or did I get lost on that? Because I'm thinking, if that's our only emergency and something happens out on the track, that's a long way from an ambulance at that Circle Drive to somebody that's
on the corner
on the track down by Spring Mountain, and so maybe I got lost in understanding that.
I thought you said there was a pedestrian,
Yes, there's
and then that's the emergency.
right.
But it
There's
would get a vehicle.
pedestrian gate.
There's a fence now. Is that going to have a gate or something?
It has a gate that they show for going through.
It does. Okay, I guess I have
For
it.
cars.
But can a vehicle access campus from Hillview
From that corner.
directly to the field? Okay.
I believe, I can't tell you for sure, but I remember seeing on the drawings that there's a pedestrian gate for sure, and then there's a emergency access for dual
Okay.
gates they open to get in there.
Okay.
I had to drive by again.
No, I appreciate that. So, okay, so this is, I understand like why there's a confusion, because there's a pedestrian entrance, there's a vehicle entrance already in the drawings. We're proposing an additional one, is what we're proposing.
Yes, and that access takes you to the playground. It doesn't take you onto the track.
Okay.
But from the playground, let's say an ambulance pulled up, they could pull a gurney out and then go straight into the track from the playground in the midsection.
Okay. Okay.
So the gate right now is kind of near the corner of Spring Mountain and Hillview?
That's what it sounds like.
Am I following that? Okay.
So, Steve, my understanding of the change order, that drive in that's the Elmhurst side, which is the north side. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
The new
That's
one?
where the
Change order one?
the change order one is on the north side. I'm pulling up a map to see where it is.
Library. We're talking behind by the library.
By the library where
Okay. Where the buses
the bus pull in is.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, so that's where the new access is. Okay.
That's where the change order would be.
Was being proposed for that
Right.
side. Okay. Okay.
Which is at the higher grade of the track.
Correct.
Yes.
And currently the disposal truck can pull in. I always felt like they rolled things out on the street, but they can actually get in there to pull it out. I just remember the dumpster like out on the road.
Yeah, I thought
I
so
don't
as well.
remember a truck going in, but I've been at RLS for many years.
Mr. Ryan? It's on the road. Okay.
So who does it live there, or do you pull that someone?
Should we?
Yeah, Mr.
You
Ryan,
know, if
could
you
we
mind,
ask you to chime in on the microphone, please?
Oh, go ahead.
since he
Yes.
lives there every day.
Yeah.
Yes, it sits there. There's probably a more technical term for this, but there's like an inlet
Yes.
on
Okay.
Elmhurst It's also where our school buses pull in. But further west, there is the garbages.
It just lives there. It doesn't move. Okay.
The other thing that also it provides is that you have access from the school taking trash or garbage up to those that location too, because before there was no way to get from the playground area up to that location for trash disposal.
So for our custodians, when they're on their golf carts, they can, take the trash, put on their golf carts, take it up there, whereas we didn't have that access before.
Okay. Anything further?
I guess is it a nice to have? I guess I'm really struggling with, like, if we have an access point for emergency vehicles and vehicles, it sounds like the trash is picked up on the road. Is this a nice to have to make things easier? Are we avoiding are the garbage trucks crashing into something now? Like, is there something more that I'm not seeing or hearing? I don't.
I guess you're saying, is it a necessity or is it a fluff?
Is this a want or a need?
Yeah.
I guess is what the board is asking.
Warm, safe, dry is what we keep talking about, and so I'm trying to use the criteria that we were just talking about for all the other deferred maintenance projects to understand the trade-off between this money and something else, as an example.
Well, typically when a garbage truck comes in, they will pull off the street into this pad that's a reinforced concrete pad. When they do that, that way they're partially off the street, not 100%, but then traffic can go behind it, especially in the morning when trash pickup is going on and cars are going back and forth through there.
Okay.
But is it working fine now? Are there issues with the way that trash collection is happening now? Mr. Ryan?
I mean, I'm unaware of a current issue with how trash is picked up. It's not left out on the street. There's no complaints from the neighbors. So, well, I shouldn't say that. In my 6 months here, there have been no complaints from the neighbors. So I don't think I can speak to the fact that there's a problem with the current trash pickup regimen.
Thank you. Okay.
I think that for me, having been there, having walked that and actually visually seeing it makes sense to me. I think it's hard to try to visualize something that you haven't seen, and you can't really visualize where the track is, the gradient of the sloping, and then where the trash dumpsters are going to go in relation to the neighborhood, the school. I think that if you were to see in person and actually really be able to visualize it and see it, I think you would have a better understanding. I apologize that we didn't even think about bringing a map so that we can put that up here like we did last time and show all of you, here's what we're talking about. This is why this is a recommendation for us to, approve this. Again, I am sorry I didn't think about that, but I think a visual would really help paint a picture of why this, in my opinion, is critical. Okay. I know we're looking at money, and I hope this board knows that I'm very tight on that, and that I've done, I'm really trying my best to just hold on to what we can and not just allow, money to go out if it is not needed. And I've been participating in these weekly meetings, and one of the things that we've been discussing, over and over again is this piece of it. And I too couldn't really understand it until I went there in person to see it, and then I was like, okay, I get it. I see it, right? So I don't know. We don't have a photo. We don't have a diagram to.
No, we don't. But
yes.
I do want to let you know that there still will be contingency money left over after this change order. So it's not. And if we continue like I think we're going to, we'll get to the finish line without any major issues with having to write another change order. So you will have money for umbrellas and more site furniture and that type of thing.
Is this something, President Pelosi, with our next board meeting 2 weeks away, it's not a long time, that we could do a field trip and we could vote next, or is this something crucial that?
That was going to be one of my questions. I don't know how that, hypothetically, if this does not pass this evening or there's a request to shelve it to March, how does that impact the current scope of work happening?
Well, currently our drive right now is the track to get the curbs in, the concrete, and get the substrate done so that we can pave, and that's our critical path.
Okay.
This area of work is over in the corner away from that, and what they'll do is when you bring out the paving equipment, you're going to want to pave and do all of your paving. So
Sure.
that's going to happen later on in March. So
11th, 12th, I think.
yeah,
Last
something
I
right
heard.
there.
Yeah.
So that's supposed to happen March 11th, 12th.
That's the last we heard on
Okay,
Tuesday.
but then our meeting's the 14th, so that means the timing does not align.
Right.
Okay. Okay, that answers that question. And I know it probably seems like we're spending maybe too much time on this, but I to your point, Dr. Vang,
Yeah.
it's not having a visual or understanding, and everything that's been said here is extremely valuable, and it all has its merit, without a doubt. But I don't know if we're in a position to shelve this to March. It doesn't sound like we are, because if that's happening, and if for some reason we did, and a paving equipment has to come back, my guess in my limited project management experience is we're going to be paying double to have paving machines coming back. Should this be something that we decide is worthwhile? Say, for example, now all of a sudden we've added more money to the project because paving machines have to come back, materials will have to come with that, et cetera. Do I have that correct?
Yes, only one thing I can add to that, and that is that when you run a paving machine for the track, it's a much wider and larger machine. When you do the trash enclosure area and the access road, that's going to be a narrower, and they'll probably use a different machine that's smaller.
Okay.
So it could be that it's two machines and it's not another move in for.
Sure, now you just complicated things there.
Yeah,
see?
sorry.
Okay, well, I think at this point, go ahead.
I mean, just to offer, we just had a special board meeting for a field trip.
We did.
Why not make us feel comfortable
And
with it?
the only thing
do
is,
it next week?
I'm just sensing so much hesitation at this dais here, and I think I want to be respectful for all of that, and maybe Dr. Vang, maybe it's important that we lay eyes on this, and the intention is not to derail anything. Please know that that's not. I just think that being stewards of facilities and the money that goes with it, this board, what I'm hearing is that they're not comfortable making a vote, and you're most likely going to get it not approved. So maybe we need to do a little more due diligence to ensure a vote one way or another that makes everybody comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
So with that, how does everybody feel with what, like I just said?
I would appreciate that.
Okay. Okay. And Carolyn, you are certainly welcome to join us as well. And I'm mindful of capacity in everybody's time, and I'm sensing that we can do this relatively quickly, that we can get over there all together, take a look, whether we meet with you, Dr. Vang, however, let's just get some eyes on it. And I think I'm hearing commitment on the part of the board that if we need to have another 15-minute meeting to approve a change order, everybody's willing to make that happen.
Sure, that's great.
Can everybody live with that?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
Just let us know when. Steve
Yep.
and I are usually meeting out there, so just
Okay.
let us know when you want to meet us.
So we will circle back, allow, either if it's myself, I will get with Mr. Aurelio tomorrow. We will get that and we will make it happen. We'll probably, if it's convenient to come after school when students are not around, we'll make that happen as well. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Sure.
I appreciate you answering all our questions and allowing us the time and the space to have this conversation.
Mm-hmm.
You as well, Dr. Vang, so thank you. Okay, so at this moment, so we're not going to make a motion to approve. We're going to...
A motion to table?
We're going to have a motion to table this for a March
Special.
special meeting. Is there a motion for that? Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
Ms. Madrigal, conduct a roll call vote, please.
Trustee Wagner.
Aye.
Trustee Wolf.
Aye.
Trustee Kerr.
Aye.
Trustee Morrow.
Aye.
Trustee Simon.
Aye.
President Pelosi.
Aye. Motion carried. Thank you, everybody, for allowing us that time and space. Okay. Number item 8D. C, excuse me. Review and consider approval of change order number 2 for the St. Helena High School Hall of Fame project. Whew, Dr. Vang.
Yes, and sorry, another change of order. But as you all know, the Hall of Fame, this is change order number 2. Hall of Fame is being paid for by a private donor, and we have completed the Hall of Fame, but this change order is necessary as well. And Steve, did you want to add to that, the Hall of Fame? Trustees, did anybody have a question?
We'll get there in
Okay,
1 second, because I have to ask for if there's anybody present or participating via Zoom who wishes to publicly comment on this agenda item. Anything, Erica? Okay. Okay. Trustees, questions about this item?
I was just curious. I understand it says it's completed, but are there any plans to beautify the outside of that building? I mean, it's beautiful inside, and I noticed that there were plans to do the fleur-de-lis, and that was vetoed. I'm not sure. I remember that, but is there money I don't, it's just a comment on the aesthetic look. When you drive by that, it looks like plywood's on the outside of the building, and it's so beautiful inside. I wish there was a way to, and that's just my comment.
Thanks. I don't know if anybody can answer that for you.
I don't know that there's been any discussion of that I'm aware of.
Do you know why they decided not to do the outside, the embossed fleur-de-lis, or?
Mr. Cinto, do you have any information? Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah, I have not been part of the discussions over the last, I'd say 3 or 4 weeks at least, but at one point they said, okay, let's just do a plaster outside smooth, and then we're going to come back and address the fleur-de-lis. And they were at one time talking about metal fleur-de-lis, and then there was also discussion on coming back with because they weren't happy with the mock-up that was done. And it just, to be honest with you, it just did not look, it didn't come up to the standards of the school. So
okay,
that's what it was backed out of it at that point.
Okay. Trustees, any other further questions? And while we appreciate all of the private donations that are covering this, it is unfortunate that there's ADA compliance issues here that apparently were not addressed at the start, which is unfortunate. So, but here we are. Okay. Is there a motion to approve change order number 2 for the St. Helena Hall of Fame project as presented?
I'll make that motion.
Carolyn, would you like to cast a vote?
Yes.
Okay. Is there a second?
I'll make the second.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Madrigal, will you conduct a roll call vote, please?
Trustee Wagner.
Aye.
Trustee Wolf.
Aye.
Trustee Kerr.
Aye.
Trustee Morrow.
Aye.
Trustee Simon.
Aye.
President Pelosi.
Aye, motion carries. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, now item 8D, approval to adopt resolution number 23-21, adopting pre-qualification process per PCC, per PCC 2111.5 for districts' public projects. Dr. Vang, please.
All right, so by passing this resolution, it will allow the district to have established a process where we can then have qualified contractors such as prime, mechanical, electrical, plumbing subcontractors, having all these subcontractors pre-qualify in advance for future projects rather than waiting till, there's a need for this certain subcontractor. So that way we have our list ready to go and we have our subcontractors pre-qualify and we can just, use those existing subcontractors.
Thank you. Is there anyone participating via Zoom or present who wishes to publicly comment on this agenda item? Trustees, any questions about this agenda item?
I do have a quick question. So with the pre-qualified subcontractors, will they still need to bid then?
Steve, the purpose is to avoid that, right? I mean, the bidding we would still have.
It really comes down to what kind of money we're talking about as far as what the project is valued at. If you're at 60,000 or less, you can do a very informal process of bidding. But the important thing is that you maintain your list of qualified contractors yearly, and you update that list and make sure that it's current.
But we're not obligated to stick to solely those people on the list, or
No,
are
'cause,
we?
so let's say you decided to do an elevator and there's no elevator contractor, you'd have to bring in some
Okay.
and get them pre-qualified.
Okay.
But with that, it doesn't seem like we would get the lowest bid then, but if it's already pre-qualified.
Well, it's a list that we can choose from.
So there'll be, so for, we'll say mechanical engineering, there might be 3 on the list that are pre-qualified. Got it. Okay, great, thank you.
Trustees, anything further?
No, I was going to ask if how often it's done, so it sounds like it's refreshed yearly.
Yes, normally it's done in November, towards the end of the year, so that it's ready and refreshed for the upcoming year.
Thank
Okay,
you.
Great, thank you. Anything else, trustees? Laura? Okay, great. Okay. Is there a motion to approve the adoption of Resolution 23-21 as presented?
Oh, I'll make that motion.
Carolyn, would you like to cast a vote?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Is there a second?
A second.
Ms. Madrigal, will you conduct a roll call vote, please?
Trustee Wagner?
Aye.
Trustee Wolf?
Aye.
Trustee Kerr?
Aye.
Trustee Mora?
Aye.
Trustee Simon?
Aye.
President Pelosi?
Aye, motion carries. Okay, item 8E is high priority deferred maintenance projects and site assessments for February 2024. Dr. Vang.
All right, Trent Summers and Eliana Montoya with Casa Studio are here to provide you, as you all know, at our, we had said that we would come back in February and we would provide a more detailed facilities project listing with numbers attached to them. So be prepared.
That's very ominous. Thank you for the opportunity to come back and speak to you more about this matter, President Pelosi and honored trustees. We will move through this. It's a large deck. It's 31 slides. I'll do my best to move through it quickly and succinctly, but please at any point jump in. This works much, much better as a conversation than just me droning on. There's a lot of information. It could appear complicated, but we'll do our best to demystify that, and we will work together. So please, please, please jump in with questions. We're going to start with an agenda. We're going to look at our work completed, past and current facilities assessments, then the district-wide improvements, and then we'll go look at each campus level, circle back to a summary of needs, and then start talking about how to prioritize those needs and your next steps. So first, we're going to celebrate some victory. You have done a lot of good work. Right, we've done a lot of good work at the district-wide level with infrastructure upgrades. We've done some good work at the primary school, where we look at a comprehensive HVAC upgrades, shade structures, and some dry rot and paint repair. We've done a lot of good work at the elementary school with some roofing, some floor work. We upgraded the kitchen, playground equipment, and doing some doors and windows replacement. Right. We've done work at RLS. We're working on the track now. There's some modernization of the band room, the library, and the modular classroom addition in 2012. And we've done some good work at the high school with the Hall of Fame, modernizations of some of those rooms, the scoreboards, the press box, the tennis courts, the Performing Arts Center, the science building modernization, the pool, the CTE complex that was put in, and the new field house. That's a lot of very, very good work, and it's something we should be very proud of as a community. But as we know with these things, the need is ever present, and so we need to be proactive as we move into that. So we're going to look at the past current facility assessments. This is a reference back to some work we did for you in 2015. Where we looked at all the deferred maintenance needs that we projected for your district. Your district had about, at that time, $13 to $16 million worth of projected deferred maintenance needs between now and 2025, depending on when you did that. And one of the things that we noticed is that during COVID, there was a significant amount of escalation. So we wanted to come back and start to look at that assessment again with some modern dollars to make sure we could kind of reframe that into something that we can wrap our heads around today. Please note that when we talk about this, these are just the dollars to keep your systems functioning at a minimum level. They're not to rebuild buildings. They're not to replace buildings with new buildings. It's just to keep your minimum essential facilities operating as they were designed. So when we look at this, I popped one out. Apologize. We went down and went through all of your current facility assessment. We are still working to project the next decade out, right? But looking at our current window, you'll see that we have about $2.9 million worth of projected need at the primary school. We have about $4.7 million worth of need at the elementary school. We have about $4.1 million of need at RLS middle school, and about $7.8 million worth of need at the high school. Again, we are working on this in progress. This is an update, so you will know that these numbers will fluctuate a little bit as we come back and fine-tune them. We're working with Greystone to make sure that we capture all of the work you've done so that we don't double bill that. And we also want to start looking at the idea that as we work forward, we'll have a full report for you that has that broken down by systems and years, as well as projecting out with estimated escalation. So at a district-wide level, we're looking at about $19.5 million of deferred maintenance needs. So that takes that 13 to 16 we were looking at. If we take all the work we've done in there and done the escalation, we're still looking at about $19.5 million. And again, these is the money just to keep those systems operating as designed, right? We're replacing roofs, but we are not necessarily building new buildings. We're going to continue to work to project out the next 10 years for you. And we should have that for you within our next update, which I think we're going to come back and ask for in a couple months. So we should have that work wrapped for you then. Okay. In addition to this, right, there's a list of projects that your construction manager has identified at each campus that are goals for each campus to do. And we wanted to kind of start wrapping our heads around that, as well as some district-wide goals that we knew about. So what we've come back with today are some numbers to address those needs, to kind of wrap our heads around the total need of the district when we look at deferred maintenance, as well as some of the projects that we've identified as critical. So we're going to look at some of the district-wide facility needs first, and then jump into each campus. When we want, one of the identified goals was to upgrade the fire alarm systems to current standards. And we've listed each campus's estimated cost, and then a total campus district-wide of about $4.17 million. Right, and that would be to do all of the campuses. And then there was a desire to upgrade the security systems. So you have a list of your campus costs there, as well as a district-wide total to do that work. That comes in at about 1.6. And then if we look, there's a desire to enhance the audio-visual systems and to replace some outdated clock bell and public address systems. And that comes in about $1.8 million. And again, you can see that each campus has been identified there as their per campus cost. If we kind of look at these holistically from the district level, on top of that 19.5, you're looking at about $7.7 million in that work. And we will then go, if you'd like, to the site-specific projects. At each site, we identified a number of key projects that were brought to our attention by your construction managers and tied some notes to those. Those are all sort of laid out here, everything from replacing the turf at the play structures when we looked at primary school, the exterior paint and dry rot, some fencing repair. There's a desire to upgrade the door hardware. There's some asphalt work that we need to do there to make sure we alleviate some path of travel challenges. We'll want to upgrade some windows. The roof is coming of age, right? The entirety of that roof is going to come of age. We're talking about possibly removing some aged portables, upgrading some of that irrigation, and then constructing a new trash enclosure, as well as doing some ADA requirements, because everything that we do at the state will require a bit of the ADA upgrades. So we're going to make sure we're going to be very mindful of that. If we roll all of that together, in addition to the deferred maintenance and the district-wide goals, you're going to look at a campus total. When we start talking about the campus level, about $7.6 million at the primary school for those projects. Moving on to the elementary school, there's additional work there too. We're talking about replacing some aged HVAC units that we need to do. There are some exterior paint and dry rot repair work there. There are some water intrusion issues at the basement we'd like to address, and some single pane windows that we'd also like to address. There's some paving issues across that campus that we really want to assign some money to mitigate. There's some roofing work there that needs to be done, and there's a desire to install a new well for site irrigation. The ADA upgrades we mentioned before, mostly at this point are aligned with the bathroom facilities there that we'd like to get upgraded. There's some irrigation at the planting beds, as well as a campus-wide refresh. The campus-wide refresh is something that we envision more as like a paint, a carpet, a ceiling, just going through the classroom buildings and refreshing the finishes. Now, if you choose to do that work, right, we're proactively going to take some out of the deferred maintenance pot, right? And that's that balancing act that we'll talk about. We want to come back as you do this and always kind of upgrade those or update these numbers, right? So that if you were to do this project, it would lower your deferred maintenance needs as well, because that number is counted there. If you allocate it to this project, we would rebalance that for you as you move forward. So there's also a desire to construct a new trash enclosure, as well as upgrade some exterior lighting at the campus. And so when we look at the elementary school, you're looking at about $22.32 million there for the site-specific projects and the deferred maintenance need. That'd be the campus total for that. If we go to the middle school.
I just have a quick question.
Oh, yeah. Go ahead.
Could you give me an example of what needs to be done to make bathrooms ADA compliant?
Yeah, so when we start to look at that, you'll go, especially if you kind of go into the elementary school and the historical buildings, the gang bathrooms, the larger boys and girls bathrooms, we'd look at some upgrading those finishes, making sure those grab bars are at the right height, possibly some of the toilets as they're closest to the wall. It seems like something that should have been done, but I guarantee you, inevitably in every single project we go into, there's a handful of work that needs to be done there. The number is high at the elementary school because we would encourage you to go through those bathrooms at that time and update them. So there will be some work there is some work tied into that number for a cosmetic upgrade, especially at the historic buildings. But inevitably, it's sometimes things as silly as moving toilet paper dispensers or paper towel dispensers. Sometimes it's as invasive as going into the wall to provide backing and tile repair to move a grab bar. Sometimes as little as 1 to 2 inches to make sure we get those really critical thresholds for those ADA requirements because they are dialed in down to the exact inch.
And it does include Boys and Girls Club inside, you're saying?
When I talk about the boys and girls restrooms, I mean the boys and girls restroom in the historic building.
I was thinking club. Sorry.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
No, the Boys and Girls Club is on everyone's mind, so that's fair.
Well, no, that's why I was like, oh.
Yeah, those bathrooms are actually in really great
I was
shape.
going to say, those are new.
Yeah, so we're just looking at the boys and girls bathrooms in the historic building.
And for on the elementary school for the campus classroom refresh, what number is that actually? Is it 8,030,000?
Yes, it is.
And that you're thinking is for the paint, carpet, ceiling?
Yeah, so what we did for that number is we took all of the square footage of the 4 older classroom buildings, the pod classroom, and then the non-modernized portion of building G, right? So basically everything but the Boys and Girls Club and the cafeteria and the portion of the historic building that you modernize, and ran a number for what we would call like a light modernization or a refresh of those classrooms, which would be the painting, some ceiling tiles, a lighting upgrade. Typically, like you'd see it as a polish, right? So not a hard modernization of those spaces, but just something like a refresh or a soft polish of that. Absolutely. If we go to RLS Middle School, there's some water line work that we need to replace. And again, there's some exterior paint and dry rot repair to do. Some single pane windows, and then some asphalt repair and path of travel issues that we'd like to address, mostly at the playground area for that campus. There is a roof and roofing coming up. Like your roofs there are historically reached the end of their estimated useful life, and we'd encourage you to bundle that into a roof replacement project for that campus. And there are, again, some ADA upgrades at the restrooms, just more in the keeping with the vein of upgrading those facilities to make sure that they're both compliant and up to the standards of the district. There's a desire to install a new irrigation well as well as modernize the multipurpose room and locker room. You'll see we took that project off as just a large chunk project there just to get that multipurpose room and locker room modernized. If we roll all that together with the deferred maintenance needs, you're looking at about $15.38 million for that campus. Yes.
I see the new well for site irrigation.
Yeah.
And are they issuing permits for new wells?
That is something I need to defer to my construction manager for. It would definitely be a process. It's our understanding that that is feasible still.
Okay.
But we do believe that it would be definitely something we'd have to reach back out to the city to discuss.
Yeah, I just, because I don't know, within city limits, I'm not so sure that's happening, but that's something for the project manager to figure out, so.
And we'll sort that out. I mean, that is definitely a conversation to have. We do know that in this community, we are very respectful of the city, but you do have some autonomy working at the state level too. So there will be a balance that we'd encourage you to work with both your local review agencies as well as the Division of State Architect and community members.
Okay, thank you.
Absolutely. Moving on to the high school, there are some aged HVAC equipment that we'd like to replace and some exterior paint that we'd like to do. There's drainage issues at the quad that we'd like to investigate and alleviate. There's some single pane windows that we'd like to upgrade and some asphalt repair work that we'd like to do. There's a big number there tied to replacing your turf and your track. That's something that we want to be very conscious of moving forward. They are beautiful fields, but those beautiful fields require kind of constant maintenance. So we want to make sure to allocate some funds to keep them as amazing as they are. There is also a classroom refresh of the 100 and 200 wing built into this number, as well as some door hardware upgrades, some restroom updates that we'd like to do, and then a modernization of the boys and girls locker room that we'd like to do. Replacing the bleachers at the football field are in this number, as well as removing some aged portables out there. And then again, kind of like the turf, the pool is always going to require some constant maintenance. So we have a number there to make sure that work gets built into your future plans. If we look at the campus total there, that's a total of about $30.1 million. If we look at the site-specific projects as well as the current deferred maintenance needs. I'm sorry. We should have just ended the meeting at honoring your amazing students and teachers, and I apologize for that.
Trent, on the
Yes, absolutely.
can you help my memory?
Mm-hmm.
The door hardware. Haven't we been doing door hardware?
My understanding is that you're sort of in the last finishing tranche of that door hardware, that you've come through and done a series of door hardware sequentially so that we didn't take this all down as one big number. I believe that this is the final tranche of that work, so you will be finishing those efforts with this amount of money assigned to it.
Okay, and the bleachers at the football field, we're talking about the ones underneath the booth? Are those the bleachers?
That's my understanding, yes. So the one under the press box that was
Press box,
replaced.
thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Because there was some replaced recently, like in the last 5 years, I would think.
We did the press box out there, but I don't believe we
Right.
replaced
Right.
the bleachers out there. There was some maintenance work done. And again, we're going to talk about this in a little bit. This is a very wide net, right? Not all of these are going to prioritize out, which is why we originally talked about the prioritization tool. We're putting all the clay on the wheel. We're casting a very wide net. We're going to go into this process eyes wide open. And then we're going to work through the prioritization, which we'll get to in 2 slides. I promise we're almost through the painful part. There is a redemption arc to this story that we'll get to. So when we look at this, we wanted to talk about the big number, right? This is definitely what we wanted to at least get on the table when we started to talk about this. This is a total cost of $83 million, which is a significant need and just one that we want to be proactive about so that we are not reactive to these things. When it comes to deferred maintenance, if we do not address some of these challenges and think about them as they develop, we become, instead of fire people, we become firefighters, and we're always running around trying to put those emergencies out. So that number's out. That's the hard part of the presentation. Thank you for sticking with me, not kicking me out or throwing things at me, all right? We're going to talk about what to do about that now, right? There is not a single school district in the state of California that I've ever walked into where the funding exceeds the need, right? And that has been consistent for 24 years now, from San Diego to the Oregon border. You are definitely in a situation that every single school district is in the state of California with a need that exceeds your funding, right? And so what we talked about in the beginning was, how do we develop a proactive tool that helps you prioritize that, right? Because not all of these projects are equal. And when we start to talk about need, or we start talking about the district priorities, we talked about generating this matrix. When we look at this project list, one of the things that we're going to ask you to do as we leave here is, if there's things that you'd like struck from it, work with Dr. Vang, and we can do that, right? I would encourage you to leave these all on, and then we'll walk through the prioritization process, and they will eventually sort themselves out from the most critical to the least, right? We would encourage you putting all of these projects through that prioritization pathway, and we will gladly do that with you. If there is something that absolutely you do not want on the list, you can coordinate that back with Dr. Vang, and we'll take it off. But again, we'd encourage you to put all of that clay on the wheel, and we will work it through this prioritization process with you. So some of the things that we talked about through prioritization metrics, and this got a little small on here, is the idea of warm, safe, and dry, right? Is this something that is critical to student safety? You know, the idea of a state mandate, is this something the state is making us do, right? Is it a district priority, which is incredibly important as well? Is there immediate funding available for that? And we will bring Jamie King and her team back to talk about how we can get the state to participate in taking on some of this $83 million. Is there, there's a really good point was brought about this. As we went through this list, you took this back internally and digested it. There was an idea about classroom and ancillary spaces, and a good point was brought up is, do we need to prioritize this, right? This is typically for a district experiencing growth. Do we need to prioritize this? And that's a very good question to bring back to you. With that feedback, we're not necessarily encouraging that you prioritize that at all, because it is wise feedback, and we can drop that from your matrix. Again, we talked about making a matrix that is specific to your district, and to answer that. Campus equity, you know, that was definitely something that was important that we wanted to get onto. Deferred funding, maybe there's not money available now, but maybe there's money in the future, right? How much of a priority does that rank? And then any sort of special conditions that would align with district vision. We went through a process to rank those, and we were able to get, and that's kind of small, a listing of how valuable each one of these are to you as a district. So we are going to use that prioritization to rank all of these projects, and then we'll start to see how they naturally sort themselves out, right? And so again, to kind of recap what we're seeing, we are going to drop this idea of classroom and ancillary spaces, but the way we see it ranking out is that your project prioritization is going to start with deferred maintenance, then look at state mandates, district priorities, and immediate funding. And then we'll start to look at campus equity, deferred funding available, and then any sort of special conditions that apply. That's the ranking that we are going to apply based on the feedback that we've heard. And when we come back, we'll take all of those projects, get them distributed through that matrix, and have them prioritized for you as well. So you'll just start top of the list, work your way down. It'll give you a tool that you know that when dollars become available, you'll just be able to go to the next project on the list. You'll always have that sort of quantifiable knowledge as to why you're choosing that project and where those dollars are actually going to go. Okay. Makes sense? So, next steps. We got through the hard part. We're going to go on to the fun part. We're going to review the project list, and we're going to ask you to provide direction if there's anything you'd like struck from it. And then we will start working with Greystone to complete your MDM plan, right? We're going to do that forward thinking 10 years. And then we're going to start to prioritize that list. And then we're going to start reviewing funding opportunities with King. And when I come back, we will have Jamie, who's much, much more fun because she brings you money, right? I need
Bring
her.
her, definitely
I know,
bring her.
less me, more her next time. And then we'll start talking about how we can start leveraging those state dollars to take that on, because she is a genius when it comes to that. And I think can go a long way in helping us address some of those needs as we bundle these projects and make sure we work our way through that process with the state. Okay, that was a whole lot. We're ending with thank you very much.
No, Trent, thank you. You very calmly delivered disheartening news. Let's just put it that way. But we appreciate your candor. We appreciate the time and the clarity around this presentation, because it's very clear. And I'm going to stop there. Trustees, questions, comments? No. Okay. We have our marching orders. We have, to work with Dr. Vang on going through this list. Dr. Vang, do you see this as another need for a separate study session with the board to go through this list against the rubric?
I can do it however you guys want me to do this.
I was just going to say, why don't you guys discuss it and then just let us know?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll kind of maybe have a little team meeting, if you will, and see what might be the best way to go about it.
But would it make sense to do it after we have another presentation where we understand what the state
I don't
can
think
provide?
we need to do it between now and, but I just want to just kind of start to put the thought out there of how we're going to work on this together.
Okay.
So it may not be till April, but however that plays out, we should start to at least start the conversation about that. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Appreciate
it.
Thank you.
And we'll look forward to reporting back.
Okay.
Again.
We'll look forward to that pot of money you're bringing as well. Okay, we're going to move on to the consent agenda. The consent agenda contains routine items judged as appropriate to be acted upon in one motion. If a board member requests that an item be removed from the consent agenda, the item will be considered under discussion and action items. Is there anyone present who wishes to comment on this agenda item or participating via Zoom? No? Trustees, do you have any questions or have a need to pull any items from the consent agenda? No? Okay. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Ms. Madrigal will conduct a roll call vote.
Trustee Wolf?
Aye.
Trustee Kerr?
Aye.
Trustee Mora?
Aye.
Trustee Simon?
Aye.
President Pelosi?
Aye. Motion carried. Thank you. Okay, we're on item 10, which is student learning and achievement. As we stated at the start of our session at 4:30, item 10A is being pulled this evening and will be presented in March. So we're going to move on to 10B, which is the presentation of the 2023-2024 LCAP mid-year review. Mr. Heller, please.
Yes, good evening. A new state of California mandate now requires school districts to provide a mid-year snapshot progress of LCAP goals and actions. As the board is aware, we are in the conclusion of our third year in the 3-year cycle, and I will provide the board an update in March for the next step for the 3-year cycle. So just kind of foreshadowing where we are in that process. The data presented to you tonight is going to be used in our further exploration and discussion as we continue to develop the goals and actions related to the next 3-year plan and its cycle. So the information tonight is just presented as an information item, and it does not require any board approval or action. So we present it tonight just for review and hopefully answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you. Is there anyone who wishes to publicly comment on this agenda item? Trustees, any questions about this agenda item?
Well, I mean, I guess, do you feel that we're on track? There's a lot of data in there. I guess that would be my overall question is, what's your comfort level with how we're doing, given
Well,
the mid-year progress report?
I think overall in some areas, and then the other areas that I think we've identified, they will reappear in our goals and actions. So, I will foreshadow a little bit that our goals from the 3-year plan that we currently have. Typically, when you make goals to achieve them, and it feels like our 3 or our 4 goals right now are still kind of in progress, and they feel like they need to be repurposed and reevaluated to come back as some component of our next 3-year cycle. And I think you'll see too that our actions will be a little more prescriptive. We have a lot of actions, and sometimes when you spread yourself trying to do too much, you may not be as successful in certain areas. So I think to foreshadow that, you'll see a more concentrated LCAP that'll be a little more succinct and kind of tight in our goals and actions, but overall kind of addressing some of those key critical areas that you might have noticed in the data.
Okay.
And then when you say you come back in March, which is just a few weeks away,
Yes.
what will be our excitement in March?
It will kind of highlight what I'm foreshadowing a little bit right now, and then also kind of detail what our plan is to collect community stakeholder involvement and in a survey, and kind of outline the timeline for our work in the LCAP with the steering committee, with that survey administration, collection of data. So it kind of just tells us where we are right now, and then and the timeline of where we're going to be by the end of June.
So some of my comments were just going to be, I think I'll just maybe bring it offline as more of like, how does it become more user-friendly? Because it takes a long time to interpret and figure out. So I'm just wondering how to make it a little more common language for a parent to understand, if that's the intended audience also. So
Yes, and I think
some are mandated.
I don't want to get too much into it tonight because I think I'll talk more about it. But if you think back on the LCAP when we developed it in 2021, we were just coming back into school, and our focus was our mandate was catching students up from their learning loss, and also addressing social-emotional learning. And so we had a concentrated focus to kind of put everything in there that we're doing to show the efforts made in the classroom and by schools. And I think by doing that, we really kind of put a lot in there, and then realized this is a little bit unwieldy for us to be able to evaluate thoroughly. And so that's why I'm kind of telling you tonight, you will see a more condensed, concise plan, which the state and our LCAP advisors are telling us is something that they recommend that we do to make it a little more user-friendly. I don't think anybody in this room likes to write a 100-page document for anybody to read and feel like it's something that they could use. So our goal is to pare it down, make it a little more concise and user-friendly. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Heller. Trustees, any other questions?
My comment was the same as far as kind of user-friendly in the future. Yeah.
Great feedback.
Wow, we're
Yep.
going to miss those 100-page reports,
Yeah,
Mr.
well,
Heller.
I appreciate that you all read them.
Yeah, we sure do. We're good students up here. Okay, thank you very much for that. Item 10C, consideration of approval for the 2022-23 school accountability report cards. Mr. Heller again, please.
Yes, so tied to the local control accountability plan, schools and school districts are annually required to complete the school accountability report card, known as the SARC, and post them on their websites every year prior to February 1st. Within each individual SARC, data pieces related to demographics, standardized test scores, curriculum, Williams Act compliance, and some financial information. While it's a standalone item for approval, the information contained in each individual SARC supports the overall mission and vision of the LCAP, and is available on the district and sites websites for the community to access. So I would ask for your approval at this time, as they were posted by February 1st.
Thank you. Is there anyone present or participating via Zoom who wishes to publicly comment on this agenda item? No? Trustees, any questions about this agenda item? No? Okay. Is there a motion to approve the 2022-23 school accountability report cards as presented?
I'll make that motion.
Carolyn, would you like to cast a vote?
Yes.
Okay. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Ms. Madrigal will conduct a roll call vote.
Trustee Wagner?
Aye.
Trustee Wolf?
Aye.
Trustee Kerr?
Aye.
Trustee Mora?
Aye.
Trustee Simon?
Aye.
President Pelosi?
Aye. Motion carried. 10D is our public hearing. Excuse me, I got to get my and consideration of approval for the 2023-2024 extended school year waiver request. Mr. Heller.
So per California Code of Regulations, Section 3043D and the Individuals with Disabilities Act, the district must provide an extended year program for special education for a minimum of 20 instructional days. However, new legislation has permitted districts and local school boards to have the autonomy to reduce the number of days to meet the requirements of the program through a waiver known as the W-12. And this was just started last year, you may recall. District and staff are proposing to take the 20-day ESY requirement and modify it to a 14-day summer school that will have an extended day to meet the hours required of the program, which are 80 hours total. Our general education summer school program would run concurrently, so we project that currently to be June 10th through June 28th, with the Juneteenth holiday to take a break for 14 days. So the high school will continue to operate their credit recovery through July, just as a as a one-off to the program for credit, or not summer school, but for credit recovery. And this is a negotiable item that's been negotiated with both CSEA Chapter 287 and SHTA, and both memberships were agreeable. So I would ask the board to consider approving this evening.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Heller. We will need to conduct a public hearing on this. So with that, the public hearing for the extended school year for special education waiver request is now open at 8:21 p.m. And we need to keep this hearing open for at least 1 minute to see if there's any, hold on, let me get my brain and mouth to work together. During this public hearing, comments should be limited to the extended school year for special education. It is our goal to hear from all of those who wish to be heard. We now invite members of the audience to address the Board of Trustees on the extended school year for special education.
Hello, everybody. Good evening. My name is Hector Mariquin. I reside at 1318 Mitchell Drive here in St. Helena. Was not aware that this was actually going to come up, but seeing how we do have a couple of special needs kids that actually do participate in this extended school year at the end of the year, the 20 days actually was very much of a godsend, because the kids, whatever their disability is, on whatever it is, learning or whatever like that, it's also a little bit, it's really very important to kind of maintain it, to keep going, because they do tend to get out of, not so much regulation, but they get out of practice, basically. And to be able to keep the schedule going. Schedule is everything for these kids. You have to maintain a schedule. I understand we could probably still get there by extending the day, but I don't know if you've ever had a kid that is in for more than 5 hours, because that from 8:30 to about 2 or whatever seems to be the right amount of time for most of these kids to be able to maintain focus or for anything for parents to be able to do what they need to do, or even for some of the educators. If you extend it even that much further, I would more or less guarantee that it'll be counterproductive to what you're trying to do. I'm not too sure as to what the motivation was to, I know it gave the district the autonomy to do it, but I'm not sure if that's really, just because you can do it, we should do it, one of those things. I'd like to hear a little bit more from the administration, or from anybody that when they looked at this, the thought and the theory behind, oh, we'll just do that. I mean, I don't know if we're saving more money or anything like that. But it is super important, and this was something that we actually experienced last year, that the kids under these special education programs receive as much of the same type of experience as the general education kids, especially during the school year and even during the summer sessions. That also includes trips that some of the general education kids get to go to, that we actually had to fight for last summer to make sure that at least the kids get an opportunity, or at least the parents are known about an extra trip that they could possibly participate in. And then that was, presented to the teachers and say, hey, look, we're also really doing this. Do you think the kids can be able to participate? So when it comes to most of this, it's more or less just equal access and whether or not this is actually going to be productive. So thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who wishes to make a public comment? Okay, so the public hearing is now closed at 8:25 p.m. The governing board has heard your comments and concerns, and we thank you again for speaking. Trustees, any questions about this agenda item?
No, I was actually scrolling. Sorry.
I don't have a question, but my comment is, if I recall, this was similar to last year. Is that correct?
That's we piloted this last year.
This
yes.
last year.
It was the first year.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, that was my question as well. I kind of do recall that we did condense this. Okay, so I don't know if I have any other questions at that point. Mr. Aurelio, maybe if given the public comment that was just had, if perhaps you could circle back with that parent and address the questions that he has, and see if
Definitely.
we can get some answers as to the explanation.
No, Ms. Mariquin.
Yeah,
I
that would be
can
great.
reach out to him.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate that, because I don't think the board is capable of answering all those questions for him. So I would appreciate that. Thank you. Okay, is there a motion to approve?
Can I just say something?
Oh, sorry. No, of
That's
course.
okay.
I'm so sorry.
That's okay. I am concerned about it just being 2 weeks, we have extended the summer, especially for our special need kids who do need structure and routine, and it is critical, I think, for their success, and also to decrease regression in the summer. My experience is the ESY has always been 3 or 4 weeks in the summer. Can design it any way you want. 2 weeks at the beginning of the summer, 2 weeks at the end, So I do have concerns with it only going down to 2 weeks as well for those kids who really thrive with more routine than just 2 weeks.
It would be 3 weeks, just not 2.
So was it 4 last?
No, it's 3. It's 14 days, and then the Juneteenth holiday. So it starts June 10th and goes to June 28th.
Yeah, but 14 school days.
Right. 3 weeks.
3 weeks.
Was it 4 weeks?
No, it was 3 weeks
4?
last year.
It was 3 weeks
It's
last year?
It was.
It's been 4 or 5 weeks, depending if we go 5 weeks of 4 days or 4 weeks of 5 days. We've
So-
done different models in the past.
Okay, so my other question is employment. Is it easier to find employees for
3 weeks.
than in the
Much
past than
easier.
having it for 4 or 5?
Once we get to the 4th of July holiday, it's very difficult, and not only for students, but for staff to fulfill summer school, I guess.
I guess my
It's-
other question is, have you ever broken it up to have it some of the weeks in the beginning and then some?
We have not.
Or?
In my time here, we have not, no.
Okay. Is there a way in the future to consider restructuring to increase ESY?
We could look at that, but then the summer program would, bridge 2 school years, which it's something we'd have to look at in terms of staffing, especially in our transition program and special day class. Not that it's heavily dependent on the teacher to maintain continuity.
Okay.
That's not something you can bring a teacher in to learn the students. You know what I mean? You really need your teacher for the continuity of the program. So
Right. It would be the same employee who would.
who would
yeah, I don't-
continue
okay.
to do extended school year. That's the goal.
Okay. Good to know. Thanks.
Yeah.
I just had a question that Hector brought up. Isn't there a new program that Principal Rocha brought for special ed parent group for the district? Wasn't there an
She's
initiation?
doing a parent sort of outreach group for special education.
I guess it would be great to know if the feedback from last year, if this did not work well for the special ed students, is really, I think, what you're also asking, but.
Okay, yeah, maybe follow up with Principal Rocha on that to see if she has that feedback. Anybody else? Comments, questions?
And this is something we vote on every year for
Yes.
approval?
Well, when we
Yeah, I mean, when it's brought forth, we have to complete the waiver to, once we receive the board approval, we complete the waiver that's approved by the state.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Is there an impact for delaying to the next board meeting if we want to get this feedback? Like, I just don't know how that
Is there a
would work.
timeline on the waiver, Mr. Heller, that we have to have it in?
I
specifically
think
by a
it's
date?
pretty close. I don't have that date in front of me.
I would imagine one of the obstacles is staffing and trying to confirm that up. And I know why to us February seems like we're still far enough away from the end of the school year, but in educational planning, I sense from what I know is that we're kind of up against that time limit at this point.
We're getting pretty close. Yeah, I got to start posting for summer school, all the different positions
Right, that
here.
happens probably next week,
Yeah.
right?
It's pretty close. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. You'll start to see those start to trickle out.
Right. So maybe but kind of what I'm hearing here is that you would like the superintendent to follow through on meeting with, getting the information from Principal Rocha, from the parents that from this new group that she's created. Thank you. And providing that feedback for us so that as we forward think for our students, particularly our special ed students in this case, that we have the information that we need. And I appreciate the staffing thing. I know I have had these conversations with you and other members of this district that it does become a challenge after that June 30th. If you don't have somebody to teach, we have a problem. Right? So that is one of the things that we run up against. So how does everybody feel about that directive?
I like it. I think I feel a little conflicted because I totally respect everything that your experience and worked with the program, but to hear a parent that's on the front line and to really know, and I know everybody's situation is different. I'm kind of torn. I don't know whether I would agree or not. So I guess it'd be good to hear other opinions. So we're doing the best for the students.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't believe, in my recollection, and this is obviously just high level, I don't believe when we got like the summer school report, after the board gets a report on summer school classes and attendance and whatnot. We did not hear at that point anything that would indicate that it wasn't that it wasn't beneficial, at least what was offered for the 3 weeks. Now, that's not to say that, I'm not trying to discount any parent's comment or anything like that. I'm just saying nothing was brought to us to say, we received so much feedback that this is too short. I'm Jeannie.
I would agree with that.
Okay.
I believe, because with that report is where our teachers that are the ones that are supplying the information to us as well. They're
Yes.
the ones that are writing it, and it was all very positive, including our special education. So,
I know it's
so,
Do we know if attendance declined at around July 4th and the week after?
We didn't run summer school on July 4th last year.
In the past, when we've had it
Yeah,
go for 5
it does.
weeks?
Yes.
Okay.
July becomes a very difficult month for students and staff because that's typically when people begin to vacation.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Heller,
Thank
for
you.
answering the questions. Appreciate it.
I just have one. Would we have the option with this to be able to have the general ed have it so that it is the June 10th to June 28th, and then with our special education students, would they be able to extend it another week? Are we able to do something like that if we have a teacher available to do that?
I'm not sure I understand
So we're
your
general
question.
education. Those students are with this here with the ESY, and then extend it for like another week for our special education students to be in class. Does that make sense? Am I
No,
asking
I
it
don't-
right?
She's basically saying, can we do 3 weeks for normal summer school and 4 weeks for special ed children?
Yes, that's fine.
Yeah, we could.
Oh, this is all special ed?
No, so the waiver
No.
is for the ESY, but we have to typically you mirror the same amount. You can't, general ed special ed or general ed summer school can't be longer than your ESY program. You have to offer at a minimum the same length.
Oh, got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
So that answered the question.
So applying for this waiver allows us to condense it. Your question, I think, is if there is staffing, do we have the option to extend it? But I don't know if once you apply for the waiver, if you're locked into the waiver.
You're locked in the waiver,
Okay.
and I can't predict staffing. If I add an additional week, I can't predict that somebody's not going to say, well, that's 4th of July week, and I'm going to go to XYZ place. It really, we're trying to, and I respect, Hector, your opinion and your approach, and I'd be happy to meet with you as well. It's challenging,
Yeah.
and we're trying to continue to offer the program that we can to keep the continuity of instruction and to keep students in front of their teachers to extend the school year. I mean, that's why it's ESY, to extend the school year for that sole purpose. But I think there's a number of other factors too that come into play is facilities that we need to clean and turn over, and there's just. And I didn't want to get into all of that other minutia because that's not always about the students, and we can work around that, but yet it becomes a constraint in our summer when custodians take time off and we're trying to manage all the different facilities too. So it did work last year. We didn't get a lot of feedback on that was negative. Our teachers did like the program and felt that students benefited from it. If there was a negative, response to that, I wouldn't be bringing it forward to the board to consider approving this evening. But all pieces considered, I would agree that getting more input, for future year consideration, and my goal is to have a teacher in charge to run the program of summer school this year. To manage and be able to collect a concise report to deliver to the board, and so that person would be the point person to collect that feedback and share. So
Okay. I appreciate it. And I think this is about thinking proactively going forward.
Yeah.
Correct. I mean, that's what I'm hearing as well. And yeah, I think if you get the feedback and somehow that feedback is shared with us in some format, after, that's not for us to get in the weeds about, you can just provide the feedback for us at a later time.
And it might be helpful, I don't know, are there other programs maybe through the county that students can participate in? Summer type programs for some of our special ed that we could give that information to parents. If you need something else after school, are there, I don't know, I don't have the knowledge,
Yeah.
but is there something countywide that students
I have
could
not
have?
heard that, but we've talked about some alignment with Napa Valley College for some courses or opportunities in adaptive PE, and we're exploring that. So,
Yeah, just some options,
yeah,
secondary.
yeah.
Well, and Principal Rocha might have a wealth of, information for, so let's wait to hear what she might have to offer in terms of information. So thank you, trustees, for your compassion and your care. I appreciate it. Comes through loud and clear. So with that, is there a motion to approve the extended school year waiver as request as presented?
I'll make that motion.
Okay, Carolyn, would you like to cast a vote?
Yes.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Ms. Madrigal will conduct a roll call vote.
Trustee Wagner? Aye. Trustee Wolf?
Aye.
Trustee Kerr?
Aye.
Trustee Moore?
I'm a nay until I know more.
Okay.
I just feel uncomfortable. It's
Okay.
too bad she's sick today. Or
Yeah.
Trustee Simon?
Aye.
President Pelosi?
Aye. Motion carried. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for the nice discussion. Okay, Carolyn, how are we doing on time? I know that you are, do you have homework or anything like that you need to get to? I want to be mindful of your time as well.
She has a math test tomorrow.
So, Carolyn, why don't we?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so why don't we just take a 5-minute comfort break, just quickly here, allow Carolyn to, if she needs to get home and do. Thank you for being here.
Thank you,
Okay.
Carolyn. Thank you.
I know.
All right, we're on 11A. Thank you back there, Mr. Machado. I hear my microphone loud and clear. Okay, so now we have approval of the 11A, approval of the proposed board policy changes from the committee meeting, January committee meeting. So, Mr. Aurelio, please.
Thank you. So this evening, the board is being asked to approve the updated policy changes listed in the 2 attachments. Just for the public to clarify, there's color coding you see on one of the attachments. That's really just an internal distinction for us. The items highlighted in blue came to us via our California School Boards Association updates, versus the ones that are highlighted in yellow or staff initiated. That's the only difference between the color coding, just to clarify that. Most of these policies are just legal changes. Assembly bills have passed and laws have changed, and so then we get updates and we're asked to sort of update our policies. There is one policy on this list that might garner discussion from the board, and I'm going to have Mr. Heller actually introduce it since he initiated this policy, and that is Board Policy 6158 on independent study. He's going to provide some background.
Thank you.
So the administrative regulation related to the board policy on independent study, we are proposing to make a slight amendment to what it says currently, where it indicates that no independent study may be offered to students during the months of January, December, and January. With the change in our school calendar, reducing the winter break from 3 weeks to 2 weeks, we had discussion about this, and really the intent of that policy at the time was to discourage families from taking too much time around the holidays to begin that break, and thereby missing kind of the end of December, especially the end of December activities at the high school, which involve finals. Living a previous life, and Mr. Cinto can comment on this, as a high school principal, is when students miss the week before December on finals, that delays issuing grades because those students, when they come back in January, need to take their finals, and they typically don't do it on the Monday right after a 2-week break. They'll do it somewhere on a Tuesday or Wednesday, and the teacher needs to grade it, and then grades aren't issued till the 2nd or 3rd week of January by the time they get sent out, which is a huge delay in that process. It also affects what students may need to take an independent study in the 2nd semester. So that's the rationale behind that. So our proposal is highlighted there in yellow, gold, that students aren't eligible for independent study the week before or after winter break. We've had a couple situations that arose where principals had asked and said, well, this family wants to leave, January 24th through 28th, and I don't see a reason why we wouldn't approve that, or December 1st through the 5th. So they're in the month of December, January, so our policies seem to be a little overextensive in terms of the timing, and I think really it didn't capture the intent was to kind of protect those weeks before and after winter break. So I would propose this as our administrative regulation for your input.
And this is hang on, excuse me. Is there anyone who wishes to publicly comment on this agenda item? No. Trustees, questions about this agenda item? So this is primarily, it's for all 4 schools, or are we looking at 6 through 12?
No, all 4 schools.
Okay.
It would be consistent in the district.
Okay.
And you're proposing it's no independent study the week before and the week after
Correct.
the
break,
holiday.
wherever those fall.
Holiday break.
Mm-hmm.
But this is a change, or we're just making this official? Because were you just saying we didn't want to give, before we wouldn't because of finals? Did I get lost in there? Has it never been on the books? It's just been kind of a...
No, it was actually ironically, it was written into our practice, but it was never really written into board policy.
Okay.
It was written on the form, and as we unpacked it a little bit
Okay.
more, we discovered that it was written on the independent study form, but not memorialized in anywhere. And so as we had discussions about that and looked at the information on the form compared to our policy and an AR, we felt it was time to update it and had a good conversation about it, and landed on the week before and after. There was, I'll just say, you know, transparency, there was discussion about just saying the week before in December and not the week in January after. But I feel like that's a fair modification given from where we were to what we're proposing. Instead of the full months to just the 2 weeks that are preceding and after the winter break.
So if a family chooses to go, they just are unexcused absences during that time frame.
And I'm assuming that you had all the principals were in support of this as well.
Yes, yes, very much so.
Yeah.
There are a few in here.
Okay.
Yeah.
I figured that. I just figured we should state that for the record.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Trustees, any other questions? No? Okay. Is there a motion to approve the proposed board policy changes as presented?
I will make a motion to approve as presented.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Ms. Madrigal will conduct a roll call vote.
Trustee Wolf?
Aye.
Trustee Kerr?
Aye.
Trustee Mora?
Aye.
Trustee Simon?
Aye.
President Pelosi?
Aye. Motion carried. Okay, item 12 is human resources. As we stated at the beginning at 4:30, 12A was pulled from tonight's agenda, so we're going to jump to 12B, consideration of approval of sunshine proposal from St. Helena Unified to CSEA number 287. Mr. Heller, please.
Last month, the district provided the board and community with an intent to open Article 15 wages and allowances with CSEA Chapter 287 in preparation for negotiations this spring. We'd like to offer a final opportunity for community input before requesting the board approve our sunshine proposal.
Thank you. Is there anyone present or participating via Zoom who wishes to publicly comment on this agenda item? Trustees, any questions about this agenda item?
No.
All right. Is there a motion to approve the proposal from St. Helena Unified School District to CSEA number 287 as presented?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Ms. Madrigal will conduct a roll call vote.
Trustee Wolf?
Aye.
Trustee Kerr?
Aye.
Trustee Mora?
Aye.
Trustee Simon?
Aye.
President Pelosi?
Aye. Motion carries. Okay, under 13 is business operations. We have, again, we had pulled some items. So A and B have been pulled from tonight's agenda. On item C, on contracts over $25,000 for February, one item is being pulled, and that is the Up Valley Wellness Outreach Specialist MOU is being pulled from tonight. So with that, I'll ask Dr. Vang to address the remaining items.
Thank you, President Pelosi. So that leaves us with three other contracts. One of them being the Napa Ford Lincoln that we will be purchasing with our one-time food service dollars. And then what we are planning to do is repurpose the current food service van, and that will go to our maintenance department. Kyle Davis, who is our maintenance lead, is without a district vehicle. So the current food service vehicle will be repurposed to him when food service gets their new vehicle. And then the second contract here is the UOP contract, which is part of the St. Helena High A through G program. This grant, the A through G grant, was board approved back in November. So this is one piece of that A through G grant. And Principal Cento is in the room if there are specific questions about the UOP contract. And then the last contract I have is the Diamond Quality Water Features. As you know, I've been looking at having an outside vendor provide pool maintenance moving forward for the district. And I actually received 2 proposals, and I am recommending that we move forward with Diamond Quality. They are local. They are here in Calistoga. They've been providing our interim pool maintenance, and they are familiar with our system. They've been out here, so thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone present or participating via Zoom who wishes to publicly comment on this agenda item? No? Trustees, any questions about the agenda item? No? Okay. Is there a motion to approve the contracts for the Napa Ford Lincoln, University of the Pacific, and Diamond Quality Water Features as presented?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Ms. Madrigal will conduct a roll call vote.
Trustee Wolf?
Aye.
Trustee Kerr?
Aye.
Trustee Mora?
Aye.
Trustee Simon?
Aye.
President Pelosi?
Aye. Motion carried. Item 14 is communications, and thank you to our audience for sticking around for saving the best for last as well. So appreciate it. We're going to start with 14A board member reports, please. Trustee Wolf.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm very sorry that Principal Roque isn't here because we were going to have a really good dog and pony show tonight. I have the privilege of working with the primary school, and because Principal Roque was doing really a good overview on the school itself, I decided that it would be fun to focus on one part of the primary school. So tonight we're going to talk about, next slide please, TK. And TK is so much fun. So transitional kindergarten bridges the path between preschool and kindergarten. And it's a really great way for the kids to get a really strong foundation, learn good habits. Carolyn was talking about their little leadership, and it's just such a great foundation to make their way all the way through to become saints someday. Really fun to be in there. Their teacher is amazing, Mrs. Landis, and she was saying that TK is more how kindergarten used to be years ago. It's fun. It's the kids, they just really enjoy and they learn, and they don't even know all the things they're learning through all the activities they do. Learning pre-literacy, math, cognitive skills, fine motor skills. It's all disguised in games and play, so it's really fun. Next slide, please. Erica. There you go. Okay. So these are some of these adorable children. Like, for instance, they're learning to count, and who doesn't want to count with crackers and pretzels? I think it looks fun. But the first 3 years are just so important in development, and if children are just constantly learning, whether it's home and helping fold laundry or doing all these tasks, it's just so important for their little brain. I thought it was interesting that children from low-income families really benefit the most because it's such a positive impact on them, and it's great educating the next generation. I thought there was an interesting little fact there. And next of our lovely little children. And these are just some fun pictures. Like, so this is our TK at St. Helena. Every day they have a schedule. They have a little routine, and it's kind of fun. This was the day I was there, and they have a cool kid who gets to point everything out. And you can see some of the fun games they're playing, they're learning. They guide all these wonderful little people through this play-based curriculum, and you can see them playing over there. And they work in small groups, they work individually, and they're just constantly developing skills that are going to help them as they move through their education. Okay, ready? More fun. So in their curriculum, they have PE, they have music, they have art, they have Spanish, STEM, library, they do yoga, they have movement, they have a little quiet time. That's what I asked, and I'm sure the teacher and the students both benefit from a little quiet time after lunch because, it's a full-packed day for them. So I think they really enjoy, and their classroom is just so colorful and fun, and it's just such a great feel when you walk in that classroom. Okay. And then, so one of the things that we talked about is how important it is to learn the interpersonal skills. They knew like problem solving, how to work with other students, how to work with an adult, how to work with their peers, and, you know, teaching them to share their emotions and their feelings, which is something years ago people didn't focus on. And it's just such a great release for these little people. And really just how to be a friend and how to take care of each other in situations. So I like that. Okay. And here's some little facts about our TK. The school day starts at 8:25 and they're done at 1:50 Monday through Friday, other than the Wednesdays. This year we have 18 children. And after school care is being offered right now through the Expanded Learning Opportunities Grant, I believe we'd call it, a state program. And right now our little ones get bussed over or put in a van over to little backpacks. Nicole Landis is in her second year with TK, certainly not her second year at St. Helena. I think she told me she's taught almost every class except maybe like fourth grade or something. That she's taught a lot of different, but she had early childhood education experience, and that really helped her to get going with TK. And she's just so dynamic and patient, and it was really fun to be around the kids and the program. And then they have such great support of reading specialists, paraprofessionals. The couple times I was in there, we had someone in helping with reading and taking a child out to, you know, work on other programs. So there's just so much support for every level that they're in. So, and they're just so cute, I have to tell you. Okay, next slide. And as we've talked a lot about TK, the ages are changing. This is just kind of a chart I stole from, I can't remember, TK California. And it kind of talks about the expansion program and how the ages, you know, last year you had to have your birthday certain dates. Next year it's expanded to eventually pretty much all 4-year-olds will be able to participate in TK. And it is, like we said, is just such a great foundation for success, I think, once they go through kindergarten. So we're in, it looks like the second to the last step, 25, 26 is when they will totally have the program in line. And I think we're almost done here. Registration just opened when we came back this week. So there will be a preview day, a couple open houses, the list. Parents are encouraged to come visit, meet with the teacher. There'll be a campus tour. There's both opportunities during the day and in the evening for parents to come. And you know, we're hoping people come and register early because I know that's kind of an unknown how many people are going to come. But I have a lot of little people in my life, just having a 4-year-old in our life, and I am just so excited for all of them to come to TK. I mean, I feel a little bad for Mrs. Landis because there's a lot of boys, but I'm just so excited. I mean, I just walked out of there like, oh, I wish I had, you know, I wish I could go to TK. But she just really is amazing. Everybody on that team, from the office, their principal, everybody is so great. And because I'm old, I have forgotten how to do footnotes, so I just did my sources at the bottom. I forgot how you do the little all that stuff. Anyway, it was just a really great experience, and it just makes me so excited for our future generations because they are getting such a great start with our school system. So, questions, comments?
I think you're the new spokesperson for. You're gonna. Dr. Vang will do the budget roadshow, and you're gonna do the TK roadshow. But thank you. That's great enthusiasm, and it's lovely. So thank you so much.
It's a really great opportunity for this community. We are so fortunate to have that for our little ones.
Yes, we are. Thank you so much. I love the photos as well, so I appreciate that. Thank you. Okay, 14B is the superintendent's report. Mr. Aurelio, please.
Okay. Let's see if this is going to work. Click. Yes. So this evening I have 3 updates to share with the board. We're going to start off with the Boys and Girls Clubhouse. I know we've been keeping you abreast of all the changes and the dynamic that's occurred. So we, during, I was going to say the last weather event, but we know we've had now last weather event. Going back to February 4th, we had a redwood tree fall on the Boys and Girls Clubhouse on the St. Helena Elementary campus. Fortunately for us and everyone, it was a Sunday evening and there was no one in the building. So yes, a lot of property damage, but not human damage. And so we're very fortunate in that way. We've been working very closely with our partners, with our insurance group, with the Boys and Girls Club executive director, meeting weekly, and just really working quickly as we can to try to get the Boys and Girls Clubhouse back online. We got a bit of good news this week with our letter to the Division of State Architecture, which is the firm that allows for us to rebuild and rehabilitate the building. And they're open to potentially having us do partial occupancy, which means we might be able to get kids into the gymnasium portion of the clubhouse sooner rather than later. So that's really great news. So this was actually shared earlier this evening, an update on the track and field. You already heard that right now we're looking at a potential project completion of mid-May. That was updated news. The biggest challenge being weather. So many of these steps are weather contingent. The paving is the big next step that we're waiting for. Once that paving is complete, we'll start to see things that will bring smiles to our face, which is when they start to lay down the turf. That's when the excitement will start to build, because you'll start to see green on the field, and then that'll start to signal we're getting somewhere, right? It's hard now because we see a lot of dirt being moved and things being flattened out, but it doesn't really look like a track and field yet. So we're getting close. All the field turf is right next to the track now. It was moved from it was actually on the east side of the campus originally. Now it's all right next to the track. So we're getting closer to do that work. And that's really something, like I said, every week we come to meet. The weather has been the biggest challenge.
Do you want me to wait for questions until the end or ask now?
Let me I have one more slide, and I'll do questions.
About how many?
And I'm sad Steve left because he probably has more of the answers.
I know.
So I don't know why I'm going backwards. Too far. Okay. Last item, just to provide an update. The board had requested and directed that they wanted to see the map, NWA map data, which is our district benchmark assessment. That data report was provided to the board this week. You received that from me directly. That includes a look at our fall map data, looking at 3 years of fall map data. And just to clarify, MAP is given grades 2 through 11. For most grade levels, we do we give it twice. Other grade levels, we give it 3 times. Grade levels taking the summative assessment, the CASP. We don't do a spring administration of MAP because they're busy doing that test. As we've been working with our site leaders on this, we've actually surfaced some concerns around the MAP test. And so we are actually going, now I'll say we, but Mr. Heller is going to be leading a task force to really examine the benchmark assessments that we utilize. As we've pivoted and really focused on professional learning communities, our teachers use a lot of other assessments. They're building common formative assessments that are more in action, tied to clear essential standards, and the usefulness of this specific assessment has sort of decreased over time. And so we're going to be looking at specifically what we want to do for 24-25, if we can pivot quickly enough to do that, to be prepared for 24-25. There are some mandates. We have an assessment like this because there are mandates. We're supposed to give a local assessment that is measured against standards and norms, and that's what this current assessment fulfills. But there are other options as well, so we're going to look at that. One of the concerns is how much time these assessments take away from instruction. They're usually multiple day assessments, so that came up as well. And that's my report. Just some
Thank you.
Future dates.
Okay, appreciate that.
Any questions?
Well, yes, thank you. I was waiting to ask a question about the track because we weren't supposed to talk about it until here. I thought
I might be, or Dr. Vang, we
I
sit
think
in
you
these
might know.
meetings.
I feel like when we last talked about it, I don't know if it's when we last met because I feel like we've been meeting a lot. I thought they could pave after rain. The only thing they had to wait for rain was applying the rubberized track thing. So I guess last I heard, I thought it was December, January.
It keeps, yeah, so now I have a
why is
March
it now
date for paving.
Well, I guess why are we now at May? Because that's a big jump.
Well, May for completion of the project. Part of also what needs to happen is, I don't know if it's you can correct me, Kay, or Dr. Vang. I don't know if it's the paving. Something has a 28-day curing
I thought that was
piece
the
as well.
pavement.
Yeah, before they can lay the rubberized track on
Correct.
that. So there's a lot of other steps. They have to pave first, and then I don't know how long the curing. I think 28 days for the track portion of it, not the field. The field will start to get done a lot sooner.
I
But
was
the
just
track, yeah,
very surprised that it pushed that far.
right.
And he said, remember, that the paving was happening March 11th and 12th?
Yeah, that's the date we have
So,
right now, or at least the window they're looking at.
That's the window, barring weather
Mhm.
delays.
Exactly.
So if you've got a 28-day, or you've got
Basically
any kind
a
of
month
curing
long.
time from that, you're easily looking at the end of March. And then I'm sure April is mostly a punch list item, like wrapping up all those.
Okay.
I'm projecting. I'm wearing a property manager hat.
Well, April made sense. That's why
Yeah.
it's like May.
So,
Okay. All
and,
right.
maybe they're just, maybe just because of the availability of
Right.
subs too,
Okay.
who knows? Because everybody gets bumped out.
Yep.
And they've taken other jobs and,
That's what I was
don't know.
figuring too.
But maybe those are questions that you have, to get definitive answers.
And we meet weekly, so.
Yeah, so get those to Superintendent Aurelio and he can have Steve answer those for you.
My second question is, track starts at RLS. Where are they going to do track?
It's a very good question. I'm gonna have
Because
to
it
get
starts,
back
I
to
think,
you on
March
that.
5th. I was
Right.
just told, so.
Okay.
Thank you. We will have to, if we haven't decided on a plan for that, and I'm looking over here, but if you have a plan?
Yes, please.
I
Thank
just
you,
want to make
Mr.
sure.
Ryan.
I don't want to say you have a plan if there's not a plan yet.
Our athletic director, Vicki Sims, is working through that, but I think the plan, she's been in contact with the athletic director, Mr. Farrell at the high school, to work out use of the high school field.
Okay.
So, not ideal, but they are working on a contingency plan, and actually a track meeting was held today, so it is moving forward.
Oh, great. Okay. Thank you.
I think you should just sit right there.
I know. Because I guess when we have done in fall for soccer, it was a mix of parents and a teacher transporting students over to the high school for soccer practice at the high school. So now we have transportation for track, and I don't know how big the track team is, so that's just the other thing.
Okay.
Yeah. Was there another question? I have a next slide question.
Wait, I have a track question.
Yeah,
then.
Okay.
I'm just curious if there's been any community neighbor pushback, unhappiness, because we said December and then it was January, and now, are we hearing from
Vang.
people in the community about this?
I think I can answer that.
Okay.
So Great Stone West actually updated the last flyer that they provided to Principal Ryan and I, and so he and I have a walking date, not next week, but the week after next week, to go through the neighborhood and pass out updated flyers that will reflect the new date, completion date in May. And so we are working closely with Greystone as the dates get pushed. We want to keep our community in the loop. And so we'll be walking, we'll be talking to the community, and we'll report back to you.
Great. Well, and I think midway May probably makes sense because maybe they'll be done in April, but I think it's better to come in ahead than another, now it's, if we said March and then it was April, then it's May. I could see why they picked May, but.
Thank you for doing that community outreach, the two of you. That's that's great. I'm sure the neighbors will, there's a little bit of construction going all around that neighborhood, so we're not the only busy people. It's busy around there. So thank you for that. Trustees, any other questions, clarifications for Mr. Aurelio?
On the next slide.
Oh, okay.
Which one? Go back.
Yeah, so the map
Mhm.
request, just to further share, so Laura and I were the two trustees that went in, and I just wanted to make sure that what we also were hoping for is not just map data or whatever it ends up being. It's kind of like we were talking about earlier with the LCAP. It's, are we on track? Are there changes? What are the changes based on what they've seen?
The growth.
So it was
The
also
growth.
that.
Mhm.
Okay.
Thank you for that clarification. Appreciate that. Okay. All right, we'll move on. 14C is the superintendent subcommittee reports. Mr. Aurelio, please.
Okay, so it feels like we haven't met to go over these in a while because there's a long list of committees that have met since the last time we did this report. So you can see them listed there. I'm going to move ahead. Nope. So back in January on the 11th, there was a Monrovia group meeting. President Pelosi and I were there representing the district. Napa County Supervisor's Office was also in attendance. Culinary Institute of America, Preschool for All, and the Chamber of Commerce. This meeting was mostly just updates from everyone. I have a long list of updates that, and President Pelosi, I'm not sure if you had any specific highlights you wanted to reference, but everyone sort of provided, there was a lot of talk about the holidays and like the holiday barrel and just some of the success around that. I thought there was an interesting nugget that came out of the Monrovia group from the previous time, which is the Culinary Institute of America was looking for housing for their students. And someone had made a suggestion that the PUC had empty housing. And who was that person? Which was great because they connected. And I think
was so excited that they connected, and it looks like it's moving forward. I know.
Yeah. So that was something that came out of this group, which is nice to see, right?
Matchmaker.
Yes. So that was the Monrovia group, and we do have one coming up very soon on March 7th for the next meeting. There was an LCAP steering committee going back to January 16th, and that's in that committee there was a review of Goal 2. What we've been doing, led by Mr. Heller, is reviewing each of the goals at these committee meetings, getting feedback, understanding if really diving into the actions, understanding if those actions are still appropriate as we're really preparing and gearing up for the next 3-year LCAP development cycle. Trustee Mora, Trustee Simon, anything? It was long ago, so if there's anything you want to add.
I know.
I think Chris already talked to it, that there's just a whole bunch of things on there. Some of them aren't even actions. They're just things that are like a directive or
Laundry
where
list.
we'd like to go. So it's, if we can just eliminate a lot and make it very clear, that's kind of, I think, the goal of all of them going forward.
Mm-hmm. Trustee Simon, anything else for this one?
Yeah, I mean, it said, I know there were comments that touched on that, it being hard to measure actions in Goal 2 and maybe to infuse the goals into Goals 1 or 3, and just some reworking of that. We also talked about future plans, perhaps survey for parents around the LCAP. Do you recall that survey we did?
Yeah, and I believe, Mr. Heller, that is on our sort of docket of things to do as a survey.
Okay, thank you. That's it.
Okay. We're going to move along, maybe?
Yep.
Oh, what, too far. Discipline committee. So we held in the span of time, 2 discipline committee meetings, and I know it lists 3 trustees. We did not break any Brown Act violations. Trustee Simon substituted for President Pelosi at one of those meetings. So I try to capture that there, just to be clear. In the span of those 2 meetings, we did review and make recommendations for both our board policy 5127 and updates that will be needed for the administrative regulation related to that one. And those will be going to the board policy committee next once the recommendations are made. We also made a decision regarding the practice for RLS and the high school in regards to any removal of graduation or promotion ceremonies due to discipline. We landed on a very clear delineation for May 1st of any year, so not a number of days prior to graduation, but as of May 1st, that any infraction that leads to a suspendable out-of-school suspension would disqualify a student from participating in the ceremony, which we know is a privilege, not a right necessarily, for students. It doesn't impact their graduation or promotion, but it impacts the ceremony. And then we also, in the last meeting, reviewed our current suspension rate data relative to the California dashboard, because we do have some indicators in red, which is the lowest category for the dashboard. And we are happy to see that as of right now, we are on track to make progress in our suspension rates for both the middle school and the high school. Either Trustee Mora, Simon, or Pelosi, or anything you want to add?
Add on one of the things that on the one I attended that it seemed that would help, impress the message to students and families was that, and Mr. Fetters thought it was fine, was to have an actual sheet that goes home with a signature that a parent signs off on. It doesn't mean you're going to eliminate somebody coming back saying, well, we understand that, but it was just another measure for, in this particular, it was in the high school that we talked about, that would have accountability, not just for the student, but also for the family. And I mean, I think I understand the argument to be made that I have deference to the people who run those school sites, knowing I don't really feel like taking that task away from them when they are the people who are with these students all the time. Like, I didn't really feel it was comfortable in my place as a trustee to say, well, no, we shouldn't do that. We should really case by case. It's just too much of a gray area. So I was in support of, we have to keep the authority at the school site. We have the board policy, that will be cleaned up a little bit, but ultimately the authority and decision making lies with the principals, and there is an appeal process, as was reiterated multiple times, that could happen. So, and I obviously wasn't there at the other meeting, so you guys can add into that as needed. So, okay. Okay.
Yeah, the document was the only thing that I was going to add, which you shared.
Okay, great.
So just to clarify that, like at the beginning of the spring quarter, whatever we call it, families would get this letter just saying, as we're approaching the last part of the school year, we just want to make something clear.
So here's what I want to say about that, because that's not our purview.
Okay.
Our purview is the board policy. That's been cleaned up, and it'll be the AR. The board policy is the what, the AR is the how. That relies with staff. And that's for them to determine when and how. We've all had kids in high school, so we know that they go into every classroom and they talk to them. And we just thought the document being signed by families would be an extra layer of accountability. Knowing that that's privilege that the seniors get is a big deal for many families. So hoping that would be another layer to ensure that happens for our graduating seniors. Does that make sense?
Yes, and both schools do meet with every kid to make sure that they understand. I will add, for RLS, it's the promotion and the dance. They're kind of together. They happen back to back in the same evening. So it's not, you don't just lose your promotion and then get to go to the dance. Those things are combined.
Right. Okay, any other questions for Mr.
And we hope no one loses anything.
Right, exactly. That is the goal.
The last one here, actually might not be the last one. The Student Equity and Belonging Committee, the meeting held on January 29th, we brought in a student panel. We had 3 students that represented the Gender and Sexuality Alliance at the high school, this student club. One of the students made a presentation. They spoke to their experiences within our schools and school systems, but also within the community, what it's like to be on the LGBT spectrum and the day-to-day being in the school. They really shared their experiences around bullying, microaggressions, experiences they have in schools. They really wanted to iterate how important it is for adults to intervene, to notice as well. So it's really powerful. And the students were also able to answer questions from the committee. the next meeting, which is coming up on the 28th, where the committee is going to debrief that session. There was not a lot of time at the end to do any debrief. A survey was sent out to the committee to collect their feedback after that session, and that will be sort of the impetus for the next session to come together. Think about next steps, what we can do if there's things we need to shift in support of LGBTQ students. Trustee Mora, anything? Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm very grateful that you had those student voices in the room. That's wonderful.
And it was nice because a couple of the parents of the students were there too.
Oh, great.
In the room. So that was really fantastic.
That's
to
wonderful.
have that support.
The students that shared, did they generally feel safe on our campuses? Did they share their safety?
I would say, and I'm looking at Trustee Moore, it's mixed. It was fascinating because when the student that did the main presentation not only spoke to being LGBTQ plus, but also spoke to special needs and being on the autism spectrum. So it was an interesting mix of two things potentially competing. And their experience was quite negative, I would say, if I had to summarize. Trustee
Say
Moore.
There are three. One would say no. One would say, I've learned to tolerate. The
Yeah.
other one, I feel, thinks it's better than the school they came from.
Right. And there was a variety of kids. Some kids had been here since, second grade. Some kids were brand new to us this year in high school. So it was a good range or mix of students. We learned a lot.
Thank you for sharing that.
The Business Operations Committee met on January 31st. I believe Trustee Wolf and Vice President Simon were there. No, were you there? Did I mix it up? There was a sub, that's right. I'm sorry. I looked at the invite to get the name sometimes and threw me off. There was a couple subs in this last round, so sorry about that. So we went over the facilities project updates, a lot of the information received this evening about the ranking of the rubric as well, and then we also discussed preschool for all and the contribution. The committee landed on keeping the same contribution going into next year, which is $30,000. That was a recommendation from the committee. Trustee Mora or Trustee Simon, anything else that we want to add? And as always, the QR codes are the slide decks for those meetings, so anyone who is interested in looking at what was presented, that is there for them.
And Mr. Olguin has been informed about the contribution
Correct.
remaining the same. Okay. Great.
I just would comment, I wasn't obviously my my colleague over helped me out, but I would just like to compliment Dr. Vang because I'm not that knowledgeable in the business finance, and she really does a good job of making things clear and concise and kind of basic without insulting your intelligence, but makes it so somebody can understand it at whatever level your talent lies in the math world and finance world. So thank you. I always appreciate your assistance.
And that's it. That's the end of the report. There's a couple dates for the next meetings that are coming up.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Yeah, you're still here. I feel like, do you want to come through the receiving line as well and shake? Because you've really got. Item 14D is the St. Helena Teachers Association report to the board. Mr. Lusseldorf. Thank you.
Well,
I know.
I'm a bit of an early bird, so I get up like at 5:30.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
But on that note, the pool, by the way, thumbs up from both as a swim coach and a swimmer.
Great.
Not that this is the moment for that, but it's looking wonderful.
Great.
So really hats off to Kay for really kind of making things happen there. So it's been really positive. And the other thing I noticed, well, first off, good evening, trustees. If you need help on the priority list, I saw that the double pane windows, and my room was the one in the picture there. Granted, my windows aren't the nicest, but $1 million upgrade for double pane windows, I'm assuming that's like beautiful stained glass or something. You can downplay that priority list. I'll try to save the district $1 million there. It's flabbergasting how much some of this stuff at schools cost. So, but I want to get into my little speech here. So, as you may know, the Maya Camas Charter School has resubmitted a petition for a county charter middle school, and they said they were going to come again, and they have yet to do that to kind of present to you. One of the stated goals is to recruit half of their desired 324 student enrollment from Up Valley districts, which we're part of. This has the potential to directly impact RLS enrollment, diversity, and the viability of various student programs. Programs such as sports and band require a critical mass of students to be viable. The Mayacamas Charter Petition challenges this. It's not too late for the board to make their voices heard regarding the county charter petition at the NCOE, as the NCOE is accepting input either in person on March 5th or via letters submitted 24 hours prior to March 5th. I urge the board on behalf of the RLS students and staff to take a stand and share their concerns regarding the potential negative impact on RLS. On a more celebratory note, I would like to congratulate Madison Butts for being selected as Teacher of the Year for St. Helena Unified School District. I can imagine the selection process was difficult as there were many compelling candidates. In addition, I'd like to thank the district for the selection process, and best of luck to Madison as he competes for Napa County Teacher of the Year. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right.
Good night. You you may be excused,
All right.
but thank you so much for all that update. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
I just wanted to ask a question, a clarifying question.
Okay.
Well, to the board, but please stay.
Yeah.
In regards to the board creating or the district creating a letter, I know this would be with Maya Camas, but at any time, and has historically the board created a letter in favor of or not in favor of something? What's the protocol for that?
So I was actually going to bring that up on future agenda items.
Okay.
I don't know. Should I talk about it there in protocol, or should we talk about it here?
I think it might be best to do it in future
Yes.
agenda items.
Okay. Because it sparked a comment. So if you can just hang tight, we're going to get through this, and then I'll bring something up at
I'll
future
note it, so-
agenda.
Because March,
Yeah.
thinking in March 5th.
Right. No.
deadline.
Just under this
Okay, got it.
agenda item.
Yeah.
So thank you.
note it.
You're
All right.
good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so items 14E, F, G, H, I. I'm going to read out loud every single. No, I'm sorry. We just need a little levity in the room. Those are all written reports. Everybody's had an opportunity to read them. As always, principals, we thank you very much for your for those memos because they're very informative for us. So thank you. Okay, so now that brings us to 15, which is future agenda items. Our next meeting is like 3 weeks, I believe. It's March 14th. Maybe it's
Yes, March 14th.
So you'll see those items there. We've got some things.
And we moved items that will come
Right.
back to. So
That we're also going to be adding on to there. So in this regard, two things pops into my head from tonight's meeting. First is the public comment that we got this evening from the parent who was talking about drugs, and I'm assuming he's referring. I'm making the assumption it's 6 through 12 he's talking about. I did see you speak with him.
I did.
And I appreciate that. And perhaps an education is he just needs a little more information, but he obviously felt the need to speak in public comment, so I want to make sure that his comments are regarded. And if somebody needs to circle back, or, you want to ask
Right.
Mr. Cinto to speak with him, or Mr. Ryan, whatever the case may be, I think it's noteworthy.
and it was actually he attended the sessions in plain sight. So there was some of this was sparked by attending those sessions,
Exactly.
which compelled him to come
Sure,
and speak.
which
So-
is great. I'm so glad that
Which is
he
good.
did,
Which
so.
is we want people to attend those sessions.
Yeah, absolutely. And then secondly,
I was just gonna say, if that's also just make sure all of us have whatever information you might share.
I will share with
I think it
everyone.
would be useful. I know you're new to the high school. You don't have one at the high school now, and it's been a while.
Yeah.
Just a refresher, just to the comment of used to check backpacks, now they don't. Just knowing what does happen and doesn't
Sure.
happen. I don't know that
Right. What is allowable, what is not.
Right, legally, what
Yeah,
we
because
can and
there are
cannot do.
those
In the same
constraints.
how the SRO plays a role or doesn't play a role in
Sure,
that as well.
exactly. And again, we just need high
Mhm.
level where
Yep.
we don't need to be in
course.
the how kind of thing. And then secondly, to Trustee Simon's comment. So, in my experience, I think we, as a board, sometimes we have issued statements, not something necessarily as, potentially controversial as a charter school. That doesn't mean that we can't. This is where I would take a pulse of the board to say, do we want to, as a board, issue a statement? Because I don't know how everybody feels about charter schools. And if not, you can certainly submit your own public comment. You can go right on to the NCOE website. They have the address there. You just have to be sure when you're submitting public comment, because your name will be attached to it, that you clarify that you're speaking on behalf of yourself, that you are not speaking on behalf of the board should
The
we
district,
choose not to do a board statement. Am I missing anything?
No, you're correct.
Okay. So, we can.
So my thought,
Okay.
if I can add,
Yes.
we had talked about potentially doing a special meeting earlier in the meeting. And if there's the interest to do a joint statement, maybe we can bring it at that special meeting.
Are you talking about for the RLS change order?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I mean,
Depending on what timing, because I know that's March 5th is the next
so here's
Maya Kamis.
well, but in the order of efficiency, how I'm thinking is, rather than maybe individually you reach out to the trustees and see if there's a desire to have a state, because you may find that 3 people are in favor of charter schools. I and I don't necessarily, I'm not prepared to
right.
put anybody on the
No,
spot
we don't have to
tonight.
do that. I can.
So I think maybe first figure out if there is a desire to have a collective statement.
Okay.
And then, if
Yeah.
not, we can certainly we've got plenty of people to wordsmith some kind of statement, and we can submit it on behalf of the board. If not, everybody is welcome to certainly get your public comment in.
Thank you.
Yes, does that make sense, and everybody's comfortable with that?
Yep.
Okay.
Makes sense.
Okay, great. If we don't need to belabor meetings if we don't have to, and I feel like we can maybe
Streamline it.
Yeah, streamline that. So with that, look at that. It doesn't seem like there's anything else because we'll have a pretty full March. So the moment we've all been waiting for is adjournment. Is there a motion to adjourn the meeting?
I'll make a motion to adjourn tonight's meeting.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Ms. Madrigal will conduct a roll call vote.
Trustee Wolf?
Aye.
Trustee Kerr?
Aye.
Trustee Mora?
Aye.
Trustee Simon?
Aye.
President Pelosi?
Aye. Motion carried. Meeting ended at 9:38. Thank you very much.
Good night. Thank you. Thank you.